Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes. It's not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every single garage. F1 Ellie got Max to participate in a TikTok trend this week. Charles drove a Schumacher Ferrari in Abu Dhabi. George did not do a good job of hiding the color of the Mercedes race suit for this year in this little teaser Instagram story he posted. It will be black, thank goodness. Esteban and Pierre went driving in the snow. Lando dropped some merch, which confused me because I was convinced that Lando has had merch he's been promoting for the last year. And it's a new merch store, not a line. Someone explain it to me, please. Joe discovered that he has a ship name with Valtteri, and they both have been loving using it, particularly Joe, who's commented on many social media posts using it now. Aston Martin announced Citibank as a sponsor. The real Haas car will be on track at Silverstone on Saturday the 11th. Red Bull is insisting they have no interest in selling AlphaTauri. Sure. The real Williams car will be on track at Silverstone on Monday the 13th. That is the grid walk for February 9th completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
You flew faster than Charles in that Ferrari this week. So we want to give a huge thank you to VoiceOver Man, the Celsius Jitters, and our four-legged executive producers. Make sure you turn on auto downloads. Please rate and review the pod. It really, really helps us out. Particular shout out to everyone listening on Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a review. Don't just rate 5 stars. Give us a little bit of a review. We're hoping to have 5 reviews before lights out in Bahrain. Pretty please. Let us know what you're liking about the pod so we can continue to improve our show. Make sure you are following us on all of these social media platforms, or whichever ones you prefer, at Gridwalk Show for your daily grid walks. We'll be back every Thursday, and we'll hope you join us. Today was a grid stroll and not a grid walk.
Yellow Sector Notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. All right, normally I've been reading these notes in the order of the 2022 constructor standings. Now we are in a transition point between seasons. I will be moving into whatever the current 23 standings are, but today I'm completely shaking it up because there's not a lot of notes that we haven't hit on today. So we're going to do this slightly differently. It's shakedown season. Red Bull and Alpine both had secret shakedowns this week at Silverstone. I don't know why they're the only two teams that are doing this secretly. Mercedes, Williams, and Haas also kept Silverstone very popular, and they did their shakedowns there. Shockingly, some teams decided not to go to Silverstone. Both Ferrari and AlphaTauri did their shakedowns in Italy this week. Ferrari also launched an app, Justice for Seb, even Justice for Alonso. Look it up. Alfa Romeo gets 2 notes. One was already said by Nicole, which is that Joe did some amazing Dior modeling this week. They also did their shakedown at Barcelona. My Aston Martin note is blank because they did their car launch. I have nothing else to say. I guess Fernando Alonso's on TikTok, which is a sentence I never thought I would say.
Not on my
And lastly, McLaren is already saying they're unhappy with their launch car and they have a big upgrade plan for Baku, which is not a great way to launch the season. And for those of you who are McLaren fans, that's rough. I'm really sorry. Last but not least, the Mercedes is black. I can't believe the Mercedes is black. That is the Yellow Sector Notes for the week of February 16th completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
It was as fast as I hope the W14 will be.
I hope it's faster. Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Barcelona is going chicane-free in 2023. Yes, that was hard for me to say. Barcelona is going chicane-free in 2023. The Las Vegas GP team showed up to preseason testing and put everyone in sparkly jackets.
And all of their jackets look like my entire Pinterest board for the Taylor Swift Eras Tour because they're channeling 1989.
Yes. The RB19's rear was running lower than all teams at testing. Ferrari announced it switched up who was leading their strategy team for 2023. Usain Bolt wrote an article about Lewis Hamilton for the F1 website, and it really was incredible. Alpine will be pink this week. They should be every week, but we'll take it. Oscar Piastri leaned into the meme and tricked all of us into thinking that he put Oscar Pastry on one side of his race helmet. Everyone posted a fantastic YouTube video showing us all the behind the scenes of Valtteri's preseason shoot day. We even got to see him filming some Grill the Grid topics.
And it gave such a beautiful spotlight to that fantastic mullet and mustache.
He really needs to keep the helmet.
Please keep that helmet all season.
We still have no update on whether or not Lance is going to be able to drive this weekend, and I am stressed. I also, now that I put that in the universe, we're going to get an update before this podcast gets posted. But he was spotted without any cast on in the airport, reportedly on his way to try to drive the sim at Aston Martin's headquarters in Silverstone. Haas has a mini pit wall this season.
Like, I know it's not necessary to have a full out pit wall like all the teams do, but it just looks weird. It looks so weird that Haas has this mini tiny baby pit wall now.
I agree. It's reported, and then it was actually refuted this morning, that AlphaTauri will either move their headquarters closer to Red Bull, opening a can of regulation pain, or it will be sold soon. And even though it was refuted this morning, I think this reporting is probably pretty accurate. But, you know, we'll see. Something to watch. Alex Albon did the Milk Challenge on Sky Sports. That is the grid walk for March 2nd, 2023. Completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
That literally felt like the speed of light.
Alright, Nicole, time to wrap up the show for this week. First race, post-race week pod.
Post-race week pod. Felt good.
So, yellow sector notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting out this week with Ginger Spice's husband comparing Drive to Survive to Keeping Up with the Kardashians in Bloomberg, which is a sentence I never thought I would utter. Ferrari completed a tire test for Pirelli after the Grand Prix, so they just got home. There's so much information and misinformation coming out about Mercedes, so the only note I have about them is, can someone tell me if everything's okay? Please, thank you. Pierre attempted to bond with Nico Rosberg over not getting along with your teammates. Oscar Piastri was a camera for Google Maps this week.
Okay, this is the McLaren-Google partnership is unbelievable. Everyone go check this out. This video is great. Oscar walks around with the camera on his head, and now you can also go into the McLaren HQ in Street View. So, great idea. Super fun.
Yep, it's on the Google Maps Twitter if anyone wants to find it. Alfa Romeo had Joe react to an old video of him doing the nay-nay with Charles on TikTok. He did look uncomfortable. Aston Martin's stock rose 22% on Monday after their podium finish, which is just wild. Nick is releasing merch soon. And finally, Williams development driver Jamie Chadwick was included in the 2023 Forbes 30 Under 30. Congratulations, Jamie. Woohoo! And that is the grid walk for March 9th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today?
Honestly, it probably felt as fast as Red Bull at full convention.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. A little out of order today. Red Bull is releasing a nearly 100,000 British pound racing simulator that looks like a Red Bull show car cockpit. I want to be very clear, this is a show car. It's not even the correct front wing, even though they are saying it's the RB18. But yes, you can sit in the cockpit with the front wing and everything while you're doing your racing simulations. Carlos Sainz released a new episode of Don't Blink on his YouTube channel. Williams announced its first race weekend activation and pop-up store of the season. It's going to be in Melbourne.
So Williams is already doing the thing where they're doing great things for fans, like they're already so great at doing. Other teams, can you please just pay attention and follow suit? Give us more pop-up activations, more for fans.
If you are going to the Australian GP, highly recommend going to this. Their one in Austin was a ton of fun and spectacular. You don't need to be like a hardcore Williams fan to get a lot out of it. Mercedes gave us a media shoot behind the scenes video, which included Lewis playing Monopoly with his family virtually in between takes. I am stunned that Monopoly is allowed in Lewis's household. There must be a ton of family fights over trades, right? Right?
There is no way that Lewis is not an unbelievably ruthless Monopoly player, because Monopoly brings out the most competitive side of every person ever. There's no way that boy plays Monopoly nice. He's got to be ruthless. I'm shocked it's not banned.
it's banned in both of our households. And I would never compare my level of competitiveness to an F1 driver, even though I know I'm insanely competitive. I'm stunned. Alpine's sponsor, Castrol, released the ice driving video that we saw Esteban and Pierre filming over winter break. Oscar and Nick both went karting with Sky Sports.
Only Oscar and Nick? Do you think Logan was unable to make it, just busy? Like, why he didn't catch the invite?
Right, it was their rookie karting thing that they do. I don't know. Interesting. Valtteri showed off how Lewis looks at him, and yes, we are all jealous.
It was an incredibly romantic photo. I felt like I was intruding on a very intimate moment.
Aston Martin was able to coordinate taking a group photo of their entire factory team in the shape of their logo, which, in my opinion, is a feat more impressive than their on-track gains in Bahrain. Lastly, I originally had a different note for Haas this week, and I typically like to keep these notes pretty short. But Tuesday night, so a mere about 12 hours ago for us, PBS News reported that Haas, the manufacturing company that funds the motorsports endeavors, is under investigation for continuing to sell weapons manufacturing machinery to Russia after the Ukraine invasion caused U.S. sanctions on Russia. So let me say that again. Haas is under investigation for selling machines that make weapons to Russia after the U.S. government said, no, we're not selling anything to Russia anymore because they invaded Ukraine. I'm sure this will be a story that continues for many weeks, but sheesh, I didn't have that particular Haas sponsor scandal on my 2023 bingo card because it's not a sponsor, it's just Haas. So I'm sure we'll get more information about this soon. Woo, stressful. So on that breaking news, for us very early this morning, I can now say that is officially the grid walk for March 16th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Felt faster than Mercedes PR cleanup from this weekend.
Alright, time for Yellow Sector notes. Like always, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the F1 paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting out with a biggie today, Red Bull, the energy drink manufacturer that owns the racing teams, was raided by the EU this morning due to investigations into antitrust suspicions. With this and Haas, it's definitely been an interesting week for companies that own F1 racing teams. Aston Martin created a great road car ad referencing the speed of their F1 car, where the shadow of their road car was the F1 car. Very cool. GQ Australia wrote an article about Lewis already being the 2023 style champion of F1. And look, if he's not going to be the driver's champion this year, I'll take style champion. I think we can award him that now. Ferrari's power unit will be displayed at the F1 exhibition in Madrid, which is cool because they did say it was going to be a modern Ferrari power unit. So probably not the current spec, but still cool to see inside all of that. Esteban was filming for Alpine Road Cars this week in Paris. Valtteri will be making an appearance at a Puma store in Australia where he is going to be interviewed by fellow mullet enthusiast Ned Brockman. So if you're in Australia, definitely go check that out, and please send us photos of them together if you haven't, because that sounds incredible. Gunther is going to be in the Fox booth for the NASCAR race this weekend that's happening at COTA. Williams dropped its Australian GP merch line. It looks really cool. Nick dropped his merch line, and unfortunately, currently there are no Debris-themed items. I think that's a missed opportunity. Oscar Piastri and his girlfriend toured parts of Melbourne in a video for the Australian GP, and Lando Norris was on Tom Daly's podcast Made with Love. That is the grid walk for March 16th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Well, that was faster than the FAA figured out the Alonso penalty situation, which isn't saying very much.
I feel like... Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting with Red Bull, Nike blocked Max Verstappen's use of the phrase Max 1 in any future merchandise because of the Air Max trademark. Aston Martin's team principal, Mike Crack, revealed that he did consider asking Vettel to come back if Lance could not race in Bahrain. Lewis and George both did speaking engagements in Malaysia with Petronas before heading to Australia. That was a mouthful, I don't know why. Carlos Sainz became a true Instagram influencer by giving us jet lag trips during his flight to Melbourne. I loved it. Please keep doing it.
It was unbelievably entertaining. When I saw the first one, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a continued series. I'm convinced that he was just like staying awake, writing different copy for these stories and like planning it all out. And that's just how he kept himself up during this whole trip. Because his answer to everything was, I'm going to stay awake. We're going to stay awake and be a zombie.
We also got great behind-the-scenes photos of him and Lando in like a helicopter tour. Like, I'm here for Instagram influencer Carlos Sainz. Please give me more. Just more. Pierre and the F2 driver and Alpine Reserve driver Jack Doohan, who is from Australia, went surfing with a former surf champion this week. VB and Joe both have special helmets for the race this weekend. Haas teased a K-Mag social media takeover this weekend, or at least I think that's what those emojis meant, so we'll see. Alex Albon made an appearance at the Williams pop-up store this week. AlphaTauri is considering changing its name, according to Helmut Marko, so take that with a pound of salt. Who knows what's actually going on? Lastly, happy home race to Oscar. I will be rooting for a calm race for you this weekend. Maybe not points, but hopefully not a bunch of chaos. I'm rooting for him even if Nicole is not. That is the grid walk for March 30th, 2023, completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than F1 realized they needed to paint wider grid boxes.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Red Bull have officially announced their licensing deal with Yeti, which we did hear about a couple months ago, but it's official now, because they posted a photo of Max with his trophy of champagne in a Yeti cooler. I personally associate Yeti coolers with fishing and college fraternities, so I'm excited to see the brand match and the content they will create. Aston Martin released a merch line with Fernando Alonso's merch company, Kamoa. Mercedes released a special tie-dye merch line this weekend.
This was made for me. I completely believe that their merch team had me in mind for this. I love it. More tie-dye, please.
Mercedes makes really fun fan merch. So, I just want it to be purple. It's gray and white. I want a purple variant, please.
Good start.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm being too picky. I'm being greedy. You're right. Charles Leclerc had his very expensive watch stolen last April, and we got news this week that the police arrested suspects, and with that they released footage of Charles chasing after the thieves like he was Batman. Alpine is currently in hiding after one of their drivers took out their other driver at the race this weekend. So for my note for them relates to things that happened before the race. Don't let the chaos of the weekend distract you from the fact that Esteban debuted a new jacket this weekend, which, if you're also an Esty Bessie fan like we are, that's a big deal. It's a really big deal. McLaren boss Zach Brown wants to find a way to be competitive with the top dogs of F1 this year, so he challenged Christian Horner himself to a race at Silverstone and Toto Wolff to a boxing match in Vegas. I have to say it's a creative way to try to win a championship this year. Rocket is countersuing Williams for damages to its reputation in a Florida court. While I could just leave it there because that's a sentence, I will remind you that Rocket lost a suit in London court to Williams in the last year because they failed to pay their title sponsorship in 2020. This is a countersuit in Florida courts. Nico Hülkenberg is vocally upset about how the Australian GP was run. Nico, now you haven't been in the sport for a while. Welcome, this is how it is now. VB's race-worn helmet from the Australian GP is up for auction on F1 Athletics until April 11th. All the proceeds will go to the non-for-profit Save the Children. Nick was shooting content for the Automobile Club of Monaco early this week. And on that note, that's the grid walk for April 6, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Much faster than the final lap of the Australian GP behind the safety car.
Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. All right, off. We have this long break, spring break, one would say. There's actually not a lot of notes, so I had to stretch here for a couple of these, so bear with me. Red Bull released what I can only call a Daniel Ricciardo retirement celebration YouTube video promoting Yeti coolers. They really like to talk a lot about not racing. Ferrari's team principal, Fred Vasseur, believes that Red Bull's penalty for breaking the cost cap in 2021 was not harsh enough. Welcome, Fred. Welcome to the real world. We're happy to have you here with us. Ferrari also submitted an appeal for Carlos's penalty. I'm sure that will go great. Alpine is rumored to have 6/10 worth of upgrades coming to Imola. If you're hearing rumors about upgrade times, it actually worries me more than it excites me. McLaren is revealing their special Indy 500 livery with their IndyCar team at the Long Beach GP this weekend. The livery is to celebrate McLaren's 60th anniversary and the motorsport's Triple Crown. So this likely means, on the F1 side, that we're going to get a special Monaco livery for the McLaren team this year. Aside, the motorsport's Triple Crown is winning the Monaco GP, the Indy 500, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Because the Monaco GP and the Indy 500 are always scheduled on the same weekend for the last a lot of years, you technically can't win the Triple Crown in a calendar year, but you can still win the Triple Crown. And fun fact, Graham Hill is the only driver who's ever completed a Triple Crown. He won Le Mans in 1972, he won the Monaco GP 5 times, his first in 1963, and he won the Indy 500 in 1966. Now, Aston Martin doesn't do things on off weeks, so my Aston Martin note for this week is that Fernando Alonso has been very vocal about wanting to win the Triple Crown in his career. So he has won Monaco, he won it in 06 and 07. He did win Le Mans in his time off from F1 in 18 and 19, and he's raced in the Indy 500 3 times, but hasn't won it. He raced there in 2017, 2019, and 2020. 2017 is the closest he's ever come to winning it. He qualified 5th. And for context, the Indy 500 normally has 30, 40, 50 drivers participating in it. It's not like a F120. So qualifying 5th is a huge deal, especially as a rookie. He actually led the race for 27 laps, but ended up having to retire due to an engine failure. His 2019 and 2020 entries were less spectacular. He failed to qualify in 2019 and finished 21st in 2020, but he did finish that race. Based on his quotes, I think it really depends on Fernando Alonso's mood about whether or not he will try the Indy 500 again, because it goes back and forth. Tangent aside, I'm really sorry. It's been a slow news week. That's the best I could do for these teams. But not Aston Martin. Williams announced a new leadership hire for their team. It's a chief revenue officer. He's moving from his role as SVP of global partnerships with UFC, and he's going to be responsible for marketing and partnerships with the Williams F1 team. AlphaTauri's technical director, Jody Egginton, gave quotes this week. It's actually really some of the only non-Ferrari quotes we got. And his quotes essentially said that everything is fine despite all of the public criticism that the team has been getting from Principal Franz Tost. Lastly, Hulk and K-Mag both announced new sponsorship deals this week, so I think things are going well at Haas. And that is my meandering, different grid walk for April 13th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
I think that aside, and I'll blame Aston Martin for this, kind of slowed you down. And I feel like your Celsius is wearing off a little bit.
What an episode this was. We are at the end. Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes. This is not the fastest lap around F1, but we will hit every garage, talking about every team in the paddock. So, it's on my phone today. Red Bull, well, it's off season. Words, wow. It's spring break. It's been a while without a race. Therefore, some of these notes are not the most interesting. The first 3 are all that 3 teams released videos to their YouTube channel that I thought were interesting that you might want to go check out. Red Bull released a video behind the scenes of a race weekend from a team principal's point of view. Aston Martin released a video with an update on their new factory being built. And Mercedes put out a video celebrating 10 years with Lewis, and he reflected on all the big moments. So you should definitely go check all of those out. But You can tell which one is my favorite. But also, the factory behind the scenes stuff has been very cool. Carlos's penalty appeal to the FIA from the Australian GP was dismissed, and he publicly acknowledged that the clarity in decision-making in F1 has been a hot topic for the last couple of years. Just give Lewis his championship back.
Please.
Zach Brown took part in both of the historic F1 races at the Long Beach Grand Prix this weekend, which was cool. See his little head go boom. He drove an old Williams car, which I believe is his own. Zhou was on a billboard for Hennessy in China. Logan did a lot of things in New York City, including ringing the closing bell at NASDAQ, posing at the top of the Empire State Building, and taking photos in many iconic tourist locations around the city.
I did not run into Logan in New York City, in case anyone was wondering.
I was wondering. Nick DeVries went to an AC Milan game in his time off. Members of the press have received copies of Gunther's book, and apparently he goes hard at the entire Schumacher family, so we have that to look forward to when the book's officially released. And lastly, many teams are using this long layoff between races to give their reserve drivers testing time in the 2021 versions of their cars. This includes Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, and Alpine, and I think a couple more that I missed, but those are the three that I saw predominantly posting about doing this testing time. That's the grid walk for April 20th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
It was longer than Zach Brown's second historic F1 race at the Long Beach Grand Prix.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest lap around F1, but we will make sure we end the pod hitting every F1 team. Garage is what I normally say, but that's okay. Starting today with the F1 Garage, I thought it was really interesting that they put out an informational video about their sustainable fuel for the 2026 engine regulations on Earth Day this year. I'm going to be looking forward to when we get the written version of those regulations and get to dig through them, because I think it's one of the coolest things that F1 is working on right now. We had conflicting reports this week, which is my favorite kind of reports, if I'm being honest. We had reports that Daniel Ricciardo was instantly faster than Sergio Perez in the simulation. And then we also had reports that he wasn't anywhere close and Red Bull's helping him get back to his pre-McLaren self. I think it's hysterical when they're just so opposite. But either way, I'm not seeing any reporting that he's anywhere close to Max, and I think that would be the valuable reporting in all of this. Moving on to Aston Martin, Alonso continues to have the best TikTok account on the grid, despite being the oldest driver. Thank you, Aston Martin admin. We know who you are. You are doing a great job. Keep it up, please. It's fantastic. Lewis has teased the return of his merch line, Plus 44. They do limited edition drops at various races last year. I'm excited to see what I'm assuming is going to be a Miami drop next week. It looks cool. Charles Leclerc released a song. Esteban Ocon was the first F1 driver to give very public attention to the F1 Academy this week. He went on a podcast that was very complimentary of F1 Academy driver Bianca Bustamante, saying that she was the first one in, the last one out. I also just really liked the conversation both these men were having about how much harder women have to work in spaces like this to get to these opportunities. Love to see it. I can't wait to see what additional attention other F1 drivers, F1 teams, and just notable personalities continue to give to this series. McLaren has officially announced and revamped its development driver program. It hasn't had anything official for many years now. Williams, their pop-up in Miami is next week. I know this has already been a note, but this is my reminder to you that if you're going to be in Miami, even if you're not attending the race, go to the Williams pop-up. You will not regret it. When we went in COTA, it was one of my favorite things we did the entire time. So you don't feel like you have to be going to the Grand Prix. Gunther released his book on 420. Joe released some jewelry glamour shots that were just incredible. He was wearing like this beautiful Dior jewelry, and he just looked fantastic on his Instagram. And last but not least, Yuki was interviewed in the past week where he was very supportive of Seb taking over Helmut Marko's position, or just taking over the future of Red Bull as a whole. I think many of us would agree with Yuki's assessment, and there definitely seems to be some general traction for this, even more than there was at the end of last year, more people talking about it. I would just be happy to have Sebastian Vettel back in the paddock in any capacity, even if it means working at Red Bull. Yes! So that's it. Those are my yellow sector notes for April 27th, 2023. How's my sector time today, Nicole?
It was fast, but not as fast as we decided we needed these shirts in our lives.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest lap around F1, but we will hit every team on the F1 grid. I said that differently this week, and that's because this week I'm not going to go team by team like I normally do. There's so much going on with the Miami GP. I'm going to do a section of notes that touch on all the teams off track, and then I'm going to end with a couple of on track notes that we just didn't get a chance to talk about today in today's show. So, starting with Red Bull, like we normally do, Red Bull has a special fan-made livery this week. When we are recording this, they've yet to launch it, but by the time you're listening to this, they will have. So the Red Bull is going to not look like the Red Bull this week, maybe? TBD. But congratulations to whoever won that competition. That's really cool. Lewis is doing a pop-up event in Miami for his merch drop, which is really cool. It's going to be in the Design District, and his tease of the merch that's going to be there looks awesome. Williams pop-up shop, by the time you're listening to this, is already open. I've said it every single week so far. If you are in Miami, whether or not you're going to the GP, go to the Williams pop-up. It's really, really cool. Every single team on the grid, including F1 itself, has limited edition Miami merch for this week. Some standouts is the Mercedes George Russell water line, I think is really cool. McLaren, not shockingly, has some really sick merch and jerseys, so much so that me, not a McLaren fan, considered purchasing some of it. Then there's the muddled group of people who did Miami Vice, and then there's Ferrari. Then there's Alpine. I actually think Ferrari did better than Alpine, but yeah. Subjective opinion. So, buy what you like. I actually think the really cool thing about every single team doing something is that there's going to be something that you like. So, that's cool. There's a good diversity of things except for everyone who just did Miami Vice. Haas will be doing a pop-up event, not this weekend, but Mother's Day with MoneyGram at the Aventura Mall. Daniel Ricciardo is not on the grid, but he met the Queen of Genovia at the Met Gala, and that is much cooler in my opinion.
That video short-circuited my brain. I was waiting all last night I knew his outfit was going to be basic. I'm not here to critique it. It was literally what I expected as much as I wanted it to be, but it was the Honey Badgers first met, and the video of him with Anne Hathaway just did so much to my brain. Just because I know this and need to share this to the only place I can share. He was wearing a designer called Tom Brown, and he was dressed, this designer also dressed Jenna Ortega, Janelle Monáe, Alexander Skarsgård, Pusha T, Olivia Rodrigo, and literally if you look at Jenna Ortega and Daniel Ricciardo next to each other, technically they match. They were both wearing the same tweed. But that does not matter because Anne Hathaway is an F1 fan, and their entire interaction, as Anne Hathaway is in one of my favorite outfits of the entire night, was just like, oh my god, I'm a big F1 fan. So, Queen of Genovia, who the heck is your team? Where's your allegiance? I need to know. You don't follow anyone on Instagram, so I have a lot of questions. Thank you. That's all.
If you're an MBA student at Harvard, you can now take classes and learn from Toto Wolff. He is now an associate professor there. Auto Nation is officially sponsoring F1 for the first time. This is a big deal because they're a huge American motorsports sponsor. They're also, they're sponsoring Alpine. I said they're sponsoring F1. They're sponsoring Alpine in particular on the F1 grid, and part of the deal is that they're also going to sell Alpine cars in America through Auto Nation. So for the first time, you can actually buy an Alpine car in the US. Last off-track thing, Charles invited everyone to pre-save his second song that's about Miami, but Miami hasn't happened yet. But go save his second song. Now, a couple of on-track things to wrap this up this week. Mike Crack was interviewed this week and predicted that F1 is going to be going away from combustion engines in the next 20 years. So not anytime soon, but notable that he said that. There's clearly something going on that's much worse than we expected with the F1 Academy. Not only do we still not have a broadcast, but if you go to their website, it actually doesn't have the FIA logo in the header. And while they're included in the F1's website header, if you navigate to the F2 or F3 website, the F1 Academy disappears. So there's definitely a lot going on behind the scenes other than what the press release put out, which is just that infrastructure is hard. There seems to be something going on, and while websites don't prove anything, I thought it was worth pointing out, and we should all keep a close eye on what is going on there. Last but not least, we touched on it a little bit, but rumors are that Ferrari will finally bring their first upgrade of the season this week. They're the only team on the grid that has not outdeveloped Red Bull once year over year, so thank goodness. Please put something new on that car, please. So that's it. Those are the Yellow Sector notes for the Miami GP week. Happy May the 4th. Nicole, how was my sector time today?
Your sector time was definitely faster than whenever Rihanna got to the Met Gala, but very much worth the wait as always.
We wait for Rihanna.
I'll wait for her anywhere. 100%.
Welcome back to the Yellow Sector notes. Normally, I give you one note and make sure we hit every F1 garage because we think there are interesting stories up and down the paddock, even if we can't talk about all of them in depth. Now today, everything I wanted to put in the Yellow Sector note have already been covered because we talk about almost everything that happened at the Miami GP, whether in our extra long gossip grid or in other places. So we are about to head into a triple header on the European leg of the F1 season, and I thought I would give every single team a bit to be hopeful for on-track related reasons. Now, Red Bull fans, your car is a rocket ship. You don't need more reasons to be hopeful, and your drivers are even acting polite and haven't killed each other yet. This is not for you. Go be happy somewhere else. This is the coping corner. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe. All right. Starting with Aston Martin. Despite this week Ferrari bringing a really significant upgrade with their brand new floor, your car in Fernando Alonso's hands is still comfortably the fastest car not named a Red Bull. Which, for a team that everyone is like, wow, they started a season fast, the fact that you're still holding on to that comfortable speed, that's great. Be happy with your podium. Mercedes fans, you did it. We did it. We did it. We made it to Imola, and we're only 6 points behind the Aston Martin, despite constantly being the 4th fastest team on track, particularly in qualifying trim. Also, this weekend, Lewis's pace on hards, once he got in clear air, really impressive. Like, again, fastest car not named Red Bull or the Aston in Fernando Alonso's hands specifically. Like, we did it. We made it to Imola. All right, Alpine. It seems like your upgrade was all right, and your qualifying pace was similar to the Mercedes qualifying pace. And Alpine has stated that their goal is to fight consistently with whoever is 4th from that top group, and it does seem like your upgrade has gotten you closer to that goal. And without all the operational commotion, you were there. Congratulations. Haas. 1 lap pace. Fantastic. K-Mag starting P4, but he was in Q3 on merit with or without the red flag that put him at P4. But also, he was fighting with the Ferrari on track. Bask in that glory. AlphaTauri. It looks like Yuki is taking a real step forward as a driver. Look, I'm not gonna lie. That car is probably the slowest on pace overall so far this season. But yet Yuki has finished every race 10 or 11. So, like, that's a great thing to know that you have a driver that you can be confident is getting the most out of the car. Williams.
I can never pick Yuki to get points because then he just falls outside of the points and it's my fault, not his. Thank you.
Well, I think my favorite part of that prediction is that, and we have a video of this on our social channels now, at Gridwalk Show, if you want to go check it out. Nicole picks Yuki for P10, and then in the same breath says, well, he's not going to finish P10 now that I picked him. So Nicole's prediction was both right and wrong at the same time.
Just like you with George. This is George and Lewis.
Yep, all over again.
Podium, but George P4.
Yep. Williams. Hold on tight to Alex Albon. Pray he will not be hired away from you. Because, wow, he's a good driver. And, like, just love him. Just be happy he's there. But, Williams, you continue to really close the gap to the top. You're one of the only teams that's consistently developing year over year at a faster rate than Red Bull. So at this point last year, the Williams was over 2 seconds behind the fastest car at that time, which was the Ferrari in qualifying trim. This year, it was about a second behind. So things are good. They're looking up. I'm actually really positive for the Williams team. I don't think you'll be great by the end of the season, but like next year, yeah, looking good. Alfa Romeo, you have upgrades coming. Valtteri did okay this week, and there were no DNFs. And like both of your cars made it to the finish line, and I think you needed a week like that. So like Bass, that's a win. It's a win. Win is a win. And last but not least, Ferrari. So what I have for you is you had the fastest pit stop this week, and for a team that has consistently struggled with pit stops, that's a win. And all of your pit stops were good. It's not that you had one really good fast one, like all of them were consistently really good. You made up a lot of times in the pits. And your pace was okay until your car started to eat its tires and Carlos had to slow down. But your pace really, look, I'm not gonna lie, your pit stops were great. So live in that, and I think anything going right in Ferrari right now is a win. So those are my yellow sector notes. I hope overall that I made you feel really good about some aspect of your team's on-track performance. We cannot all be Red Bull, but we can all cope together. Nicole, how was my time today?
Briana, I think you forgot like a piece of hope for McLaren.
No, that. Yeah.
Sorry, McLaren fans. Not sorry.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. We end every show with one note from every F1 team, because we can't go in depth about every story going on in F1, but we think there's something interesting going on up and down the path. So, starting like always at the Red Bull Garage, Red Bull's car livery design competition is now open for Austin. So if you want to submit a design and potentially get it selected, like the one in Miami was, submit it soon. It closes very soon. Aston is in rumors to be in talks to team up with Honda for the 2026 engine regulations. Nothing official yet. We just know they're talking. They want to become a works team. So, this one was pointed out to me by a post on @DecalSpotters on Twitter, which, by the way, is a fantastic Twitter account if you just want to follow sponsorship news up and down the grid. The Mercedes race suits now feature 2 stripes down the side of the leg. And it didn't, at least in Australia and earlier. So all the photos of Lewis's podium, there's no 2 little stripes down the side of the leg. But in Miami, there were. So I don't know why, but they're cool. They're Patronus blue. But I was like, why?
What does it mean?
What does it mean? I think it means they had an interesting design update and they brought it to the track. They're bringing upgrades. They brought race suit design upgrades. Charles Leclerc shot content in Monaco this week with the agency race service. It seems like it's centered around him driving his Ferrari road car around Monaco very quickly. Alpine CEO continues to set ambiguous ultimatums to the press about team performance. I call them ambiguous because he's not telling us what they need to be doing or whose job is on the line. But they definitely need to be doing something, and someone's job is on the line. And you can infer from that what they need to be doing and who needs to be doing it, or they will be fired. Okay. Lando got a new McLaren. Hopefully it runs better than the race car. Haas. Okay. Behind the curtain here for a second. Every single week we're recording these notes for Yellow Sector Notes, and I have to text Nicole, I need help with Yellow Sector Notes, and she goes, what teams do you need help finding a story for? And the answer is always Haas. And then, by the way, Nicole always comes through with a great, like, some note to say about Haas. Yeah, so shout out to Nicole for helping with this. And this week, the answer is, if you head over to Haas's YouTube channel, Gunther quizzed both of the drivers on Italian words. It was a funny video. Valtteri Bottas is launching a gluten-free pizza truck in Finland this summer. The branding looks really cool. I cannot fly to Finland this summer to try it, but maybe someday. Nick DeVries is rumored to have a 3-race ultimatum. Again, with the vague ultimatums coming from teams, I don't know what he needs to do over the triple header to prove that he isn't going to lose his seat after this triple header, but it's something, and it's an ultimatum. Lastly, you can have an evening at the Williams headquarters at June 9th if you live in that surrounding area, or you can get there for only 150 euros. And yes, 150 euros is not nothing, but you get to spend a whole night at the Williams headquarters with the head of their historic corporation and see historic F1 cars and drink alcohol. So if you're in the area, I would definitely check it out. They're also running a 10% off promotion for that right now as well. So it would be less than 150 euros. If I lived anywhere close to that and not in Southern California, I would be all over this. This would be really sick. So that's it. Those are the Yellow Sector notes for this week. Nicole, how was my sector time today?
Veloce! Which means fast in Italian.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. We think there are interesting stories everywhere. Can't hit all of them in depth. We go through them now. So I'm going to start today actually with the Pirelli garage. There are going to be new wet tires debuting at this race weekend if it rains, and they need wet tires. It is important to note that these new wet tires do not use any warm-up blankets. It's supposed to be a step in the direction of completely removing tire blankets from F1, which is controversial, may or may not happen. If it does rain and a driver messes up, expect them to immediately blame the lack of tire blankets over the radio. Who knows if it's actually their fault? Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Red Bull is bored of winning every week, so they need to go back to their traditional ways of creating havoc via the driver market. De Vries still continues to be on the chopping block. It seems like everyone's talking about it right now. And I think in Red Bull speak, that just means it's a matter of time. I give it a couple races. Ferrari, I have two notes this week. One, can we all just remember that Italian sports tabloids just make things up? And just because you can hit translate on Google does not mean we should take it as actual news. We don't take the Daily Mail as actual news. So just remember. But it is not officially confirmed as of recording this, but by the time we release this episode, it should be. But it's very likely that Charles will have a special race suit for this weekend. It's rumored to be all white. The suit was also, we already know, accompanied by a special Puma merch line, which has diamonds to represent the Monaco crest. Nicole, will you be getting any?
Oh yeah, I will definitely get all of the diamond, Puma, everything. I mean, look, I love merch, but I don't know. We'll see. It'll jinx it. I don't think I can.
You'll buy it after the fact if something good happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Mercedes have announced that all of their freight for the European season will be powered by biofuels. I'm going to read something from their press release because I think it's interesting. So over the 9 races across Europe, I believe it's now down to 8 because this wasn't rewritten not to include Imola. Their fleet of Mercedes-Benz trucks, which transport all the freight required for each race, will refuel with second-generation biofuel. So essentially, they're saying this will reduce emissions for each kilometer covered by 89%. An interesting note here is that the FIA changed the cost cap, where if you are doing research to help with carbon emissions and just overall becoming more sustainable, that no longer counts towards the cost cap, which is actually what opened up this avenue for Mercedes and Petronas jointly to create this new fuel and do this new thing. Also, all of the generators that they use on the track to power their race things, like all those computers on the track, is now also going to be powered by the same sustainable biofuel. Alpine, well, Renault, the team Alpine, but it's still just owned by Renault, is looking to sell a minority share of its racing division. Valtteri Bottas participated in a gravel bike race on his weekend off. Wolfgang Puck is officially a partner of the Aston Martin team. He is creating recipes for their hospitality, and his logo is going to feature on the car for any race in a city near one of his restaurants, which is really cool. Also, they're becoming the Honda Works team. Haas told motorsports.com journalist Adam Cooper that the parts they buy from Ferrari are preventing them from making quick in-season concept changes to their car, so unlike every other team, they cannot quickly switch to the Red Bull design. They're stuck with whatever Ferrari does, essentially. McLaren has a special Monaco livery celebrating the team's Triple Crown. It is essentially a mashup of their 3 IndyCar liveries, which are all based on an Indy 500 win, a Monaco GP win, and their Le Mans win. Which, I think the livery is cooler than their normal race livery this season. You should just stick with it. Even though they did make it glittery. And for those of you who don't know, Pato O'Ward, his Indy 500 livery sparkles. And I love it. Williams, last but not least, guess what's happening this year? They are doing a specialty Gulf Monaco livery. So what everyone was screaming for, what we thought we were going to get all season, they are doing for this race. Now it's rumored that it's going to be announced on Friday, which is a little late, so I don't know why they're not giving it to us before then, but we're getting it. It's going to be very, very exciting. So that's a grid walk for May 25th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Well, faster than Williams is revealing their golf livery. I agree. Friday is way too late. Give it now. I want to see it now.
Right, or McLaren, we're recording this Tuesday. McLaren gave us their livery today. Like, give it to us Wednesday. Thursday, media day. You're telling me you're not going to roll it out on media day? Like, this just feels like it can't be Friday. It's not possible.
I agree. That feels way too much.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will do a full lap around the F1 garage. We will do a full lap around the F1 paddock, hitting every F1 garage. You would think, after saying that 19 plus times, I would get it right every time. But nope. So today we're going to start at the F1 garage with an important note that EA is bringing back their Breaking Point story mode in this year's upcoming F1 game. Players get to live out a career mode with Drive to Survive-like interactions, which I think is fascinating. Red Bull this week was surprisingly quiet. But Nicole found a fan online doing research and theorized that Max Verstappen only owns one suit, and I am now convinced, at least it's a nice suit, but I think it's entertaining. Carlos and Puma announced his special race suit and merch line similar to what they did with Charles last week.
And it's better than Charles, I think. My opinion, I think it's better than Charles's.
It's black. It will always be better than a white race suit.
Always.
Always. Lewis Hamilton's burger chain, Neat Burger, secured additional investment as the chain looks to grow and open up many new locations. They currently have locations in Abu Dhabi, London, and New York City. Alpine teased the reveal of their 2024 Hypercar Challenger that will be fully unveiled at the 2023 Le Mans. Aston Martin moved the first members of their team into their brand new factory this week. Alright, this next one is just rumors. Just rumors. I could not find multiple sources talking about this. Rumors. But admittedly, Haas really didn't have a lot going on this week. So, Haas might be discussing a new title sponsorship for next year with Alfa Romeo, whose current deal with Sauber is up at the end of the season. And because Alfa Romeo is associated with the Ferrari brand, their options are relatively limited to Haas. They allegedly had a meeting in Monaco this week. Rumors. Just rumors. Don't take any of that as fact. McLaren announced that they poached a key Red Bull engineer, Rob Marshall. He will join McLaren on January 1st, 2024 as their technical director of engineering and design. He was formerly Red Bull's chief engineering officer. And lastly, Williams announced on Friday that they are going to have a special Gulf livery this year. It just is not going to be at Monaco. It's going to be at Singapore. And us fans can actually vote on 4 different liveries, and the winner of their voting bracket will be the livery at the Singapore GP. And I say we should all vote for Heritage.
Vote for Visionary.
She's wrong. Vote for Heritage.
Vote for Visionary.
That is the grid walk for June 1st, 2023 completed. I can't believe we're in June. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Oh, let me process June 1st. Oh my goodness. Your sector time was faster than I bought my ticket for the new Barbie movie.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the F1 paddock, hitting every F1 garage, because there's interesting stories up and down the grid. Starting with the story with F1 this week, Bridgestone has officially applied to be the official tire provider of F1, so they are going head-to-head in their application with Pirelli's application to stay on as the tire provider. So, will there be a switch up? We know that Bridgestone has at least applied to do that. On to Red Bull. Christian Horner is very worried about Mercedes. Carlos and Charles both did a day of tire testing this week in Barcelona to help Pirelli prep for the new tires that are going to be introduced at the British GP. George Russell and Mick Schumacher also did a day each of tire testing this week in Barcelona for the same reason. I will note that it's Mick's first time in the W14. I'm realizing right now, in this recording, that I forgot to write out my note for Alpine, so I'm actually going to throw it to Nicole, because she's probably going to remember what it was.
Yeah, so Alpine this weekend, actually, they found a fan who was celebrating his birthday at the race, and they brought him in. They gave him VIP paddock passes and brought him into the garage and got to do a whole bunch of cool stuff. There's an adorable, wholesome video on their socials. Definitely go check it out.
Thank you, Nicole, for coming in clutch. Both with finding that Yellow Sector note and then saying it on the pod, because I forgot to write it out. Autosport is reporting that Aston Martin is really surprised by Mercedes' pace in Barcelona this past week. Gunther Steiner was reprimanded by the FIA for criticizing the FIA. I think he hurt their feelings, but really all he said was that the stewards should be paid for their work. Like most people should do. When you're putting in work, you should get paid for it. So, moving on. Join me in collectively mourning the end of McLaren's Triple Crown livery. It was so much better than their livery they've been running for the rest of the year. Maybe they won't get rid of it. Thank you for your moment of silence. Williams, remember to vote for the Williams Special Golf livery for the Singapore GP. It's currently in round 2. Please vote for Heritage.
Vote for Visionary. It's more fun.
Heritage, heritage, heritage. And last but not least, the Alfa Romeo F1 car was in the presentation this week that introduced Apple's new augmented reality headset. They showed the fact that you could do design meetings in augmented reality and see Flo go over the car. But it was really cool to see an F1 car appear in such a big presentation. That's it. That's the grid walk for June 8th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Definitely faster than I was able to pop that bottle of champagne at the start of the episode.
I'm not 100% sure, considering I think I hit a gravel trap in the middle there with the Alpine note.
And I hit a gravel trap literally out of fear opening the bottle of champagne. Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. And welcome to this Freaky Friday of me doing Yellow Sector Notes. This is a special Pride Month edition of Yellow Sector Notes, and we are only hitting an F1 garage if they have a Pride Month initiative or do something to be promoting the LGBTQ plus community and inclusivity in F1. So we will first be starting out with Alfa Romeo, who currently for this season has a LGBTQ plus design decal on their car for the month. Thank you for showing your support. Mercedes. So as we are filming this today, it is Tuesday, June 13th. Racing Pride, which is a wonderful organization. It's an LGBTQ plus charity that works with the entire motorsports industry and making it more inclusive for LGBTQ plus individuals and their allies. And they yesterday had a wonderful discussion at the Mercedes factory around bringing pride and allyship to F1 and how everyone can be part of championing the LGBTQ plus inclusion in Formula One. So really cool to be seeing Mercedes be a part of that. They have what I think is the best pride design on their car. And of course, they have their driver, Lewis Hamilton, who is always vocalizing the support for the causes that he cares about, and the pride decal on his helmet is featured at every single race, no matter where the race is. So shout out to Lewis for always vocalizing for what is important and what matters. Red Bull. Red Bull actually is the most recent team to announce a partnership with Racing Pride. Racing Pride has been working with Red Bull behind the scenes for some time, and their ambassadors went to the factory to be a part of the big announcement that happened, and they have returned to the factory numerous times to work on different workshops on LGBTQ plus topics, terminology, the proper vocabulary to use, how to be a good ally, and how to enhance inclusion in Formula One. Alpine. Very cool. Carrie Sparling, who is their Power Platform Development Manager, was actually highlighted on Sky Sports for being an ambassador for Racing Pride and discussing inclusivity in the sport. They also have a really sick design on their car featured this year. They do a lot of things with Racing Pride as well, being at their factory, having different ambassadors come and just hold different discussion and workshops, because educating and being part of the discussion is the first step. Aston Martin, I have to give big kudos, because it's not just their Formula One team that is involved with Racing Pride, it's actually their entire organization as a whole. They have held different discussions across different areas of their business, learning how to be a good ally, all about inclusivity, being there, showing this support and being vocal about it on social media, definitely very huge. Something that I think is really cool is Aston Martin and Racing Pride actually have an award for Formula students. It is called the Racing Pride and Aston Martin Diversity and Inclusion Award, awarding young individuals that are trying to come up with initiatives and really passionate about inclusivity and diversity as a whole, not just within LGBTQ plus community, and overall just really focusing on making the motorsports industry a more inclusive place, which is so awesome, investing and shining a spotlight on young individuals wanting to make a difference in F1, and they also won a VIP experience at Silverstone. That's actually the end of our Yellow Sector notes. We didn't make as many stops this week as we normally do, and that's disappointing, and teams should do better. But that is the grid walk for June 15th, 2023. Actually, my birthday, I just put that together. How was my sector time today, Briana?
I'm just realizing that non-sick Briana had like a really fun birthday bit to do for you that we might just do next week. But your sector time was much faster than this cold is excavating my system. I'll be back to normal next week, I promise. Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. I loved watching you mouth that as I did that. That's very fun. All right, starting with Red Bull. Beginning of our pit walk here. Adrian Newey was quoted saying to Sky Sports that his career has a countdown, but I don't believe he's leaving anytime soon. The exact quote is, "My career can't go on forever, so as long as the team want me and I enjoy it, I will keep going." He pointed out, realistically, it's on a countdown. Exactly when that day is, I don't know. So when you're seeing these headlines, it's just Adrian Newey saying, yes, someday I will die. And everyone's taking that as he's retiring. Moving on to Ferrari. Carlos and Charles both spoke about wanting to race at Le Mans over the last week after Ferrari won Le Mans. Carlos even went as far as mentioning to Vivo Play this weekend that he would want to do it with Charles as his teammate, which I think is very cute. Lewis and Toto spoke at a big Forbes conference before the Canadian GP. Lewis also participated on a panel by Mercedes-Benz Canada on the Mavericks of Motorsports. Both we touched on earlier further, but I just will continue to point out Lewis being the icon he is. Esteban Ocon made an appearance in a rap music video. He was very excited about it. Moving on. Lance Stroll is auctioning off his special home GP helmet and race kit to raise money for areas in Canada that were affected by the wildfires. Gunther tried out playing hockey with the Montreal Canadiens leading into the Grand Prix this weekend. Alex Palou, the man dominating the IndyCar Championship currently, which shouldn't be able to happen because spec series, but that aside, was back in the 2019 McLaren as part of their testing program for development drivers. Williams submitted a proposal to break the cost cap in order to upgrade their 15-plus-year-old factory. While that sentence there is hysterical, I will point out that this, to me, is a really big test of the effectiveness of a cost cap, because we will continue to hammer home that a cost cap just bakes in advantages. So please let Williams upgrade their factory so they could become an actual racing team. Former McLaren technical director James Key was announced as the incoming technical director for the soon-to-be Audi Sauber team, where he will be reunited with his former McLaren team principal, Andres Seidel. And last but not least, AlphaTauri. Daniel Ricciardo is officially publicly campaigning for a chance to get back in the Red Bull seat, confirming to ESPN as well that he would be willing to take the AlphaTauri seat as a trial. I will now read you part of the quote of this article. This for me would be like the fairy tale. Honestly, the fairy tale ending would be to finish my career at Red Bull if I could have it all my own way. But we'll see. I'll probably have to work my way up a little bit before it's I probably will have to work my way up a little bit, but it's really nice to be back here. No, I did not tell Nicole this quote before we started recording. This is the first time she's hearing that Daniel Ricciardo wants to be back in an F1 seat. So whether or not you believe he should be, Nicole, how are you feeling?
I love Daniel Ricciardo. I've made that very, clear on this podcast. The one part that I also hope I've also made very clear is I agree that I think that if he left Red Bull, he made that decision. So this quote entirely makes me infuriated and I want to yell.
Well, on that note, this was the grid walk for June 22nd, 2023, completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than a Canadian groundhog.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if it was faster, but it was definitely just as dramatic. They definitely like to make the race.
Well, it was faster than the bird in Max's car.
It's the end of the show, which means one thing. Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes. It's not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting with Red Bull, as we often do, Checo will be doing a show run in the RB7 through the streets of Madrid on July 15th. Oh, and your friendly reminder that you'll notice my Yellow Sector Note isn't a lot of those quotes going around, and it's because do not listen to Voldemort. Anything he says is not true, substantiated in any way. When Voldemort says things, we ignore them in one ear, out the other. Thank you. So Checo, show run. Seems really cool. I would love to go to Madrid to see it. Mercedes has hired 2 prominent engineers from the engine division over at Ferrari that will begin work on their 2026 engine later this year. Lawrence Stroll thinks he should be knighted. Ferrari had a filming day this week, and while these days are used for filming, they're also the only allocated track testing time the teams receive. So I'd be interested what upgrades they tried out on their filming day. Esteban Ocon went on vacation with his bestie Mick Schumacher this week. Oscar Piastri played cricket in Australia with the Sky Sports team, and you can watch that video on their YouTube channel.
That's also from this footage is where I found that Oscar and I have the same favorite food, which if you told me that the Australian's favorite food was also chicken parm, I would be shocked. But it is literally pizza, but the crust is chicken, so he makes good decisions.
I have to tell everyone that in the pre-show, when we were rerunning over this and we were talking about my Yellow Sector Notes for the week, I went, really chicken parm, even though I know this about Nicole, and she screamed at me, it's pizza, but the crust is chicken!
It is pizza, but the crust is chicken!
We had to delay
foods. It's a chicken finger.
It's fried chicken. It's not just chicken. It's fried chicken.
It's a fried chicken pizza.
We had to delay the start of this podcast because I was laughing so hard because just Nicole's whole body just through the camera was screaming. Okay.
Not wrong.
Nope, no, it's not wrong. Williams will have a special 800th GP livery at Silverstone this year. They're going to be celebrating at Silverstone and Hungary, which is their 799th GP and their 800th GP, but they wanted the hometown fans in Silverstone to be able to experience the celebration, even though it is Grand Prix 799. Jenson Button will also be doing show runs at Silverstone in the 1992 title-winning FW14B. Williams, please name your cars things that are not a mouthful, but sounds really cool. So as a recap, at Silverstone, Williams is going to be celebrating their 800th Grand Prix one Grand Prix earlier. For that, Jenson Button's going to be doing show runs, and also a reminder, this is when Brad Pitt's movie starts filming. So if you're at Silverstone, you're going to see a lot of wild things on track. Zhou Guanyu attended the Berlin Special Olympics this week. Haas will be using this week's Grand Prix as a test session, Gunther told Chris Medlin via theracer.com. That's always comforting going to a Grand Prix. It's just going to be a test for us. And lastly, Yuki has been added to the list of Red Bull drivers driving at the Red Bull event in Germany come September. He's going to be driving the race-winning Honda GT3 car. That is the grid walk for June 29th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than the Barbie movie marketing team constructed that entire Barbie dream house in Malibu. I feel like that popped up out of nowhere.
Yellow sector notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Max Verstappen and Christian Horner are upset about the 2026 regulations that they have seen so far. Carlos Sainz is right that the strategy calls for his race were dreadful. The only person able to complain as much as Carlos Sainz about the strategy during the Austrian GP was Lance Stroll with his 3 pit stops. Lewis Hamilton has a special British GP hat. It is neon, similar to last year. He says he does that because he likes to be able to see all the fans as he drives by. Esteban Ocon ran initials on his car for Diallo van Hoof after his death in a crash at Spa this weekend. We do know we didn't actually get into it or discuss it. Honestly, selfishly, I'm still processing it. I hate Spa. I hate it every year. Just change the corner, please. Thank you. Gunther continues to publicly criticize the FIA for their inconsistency despite the fine he received for his last public statements. This time he was criticizing their inconsistency penalizing for impeding during this past weekend, which was inconsistent. Audi has announced its first development driver as they continue to ramp up towards their 2026 F1 entry. AlphaTauri are in talks with title sponsors for next year. Team principal Franz Tost told reporters that is the reason they're likely not going to go back to Toro Rosso. Scream, cry, we're all upset about it. Toro Rosso was probably the funniest name in all of F1 in my opinion. McLaren will have a special livery at Silverstone this week. It is chrome. They advertised it like this is meant to harken back to the one they ran from 06 to 04, notably with Lewis Hamilton. But instead of the red color, it's orange, and it's actually just a big Google Chrome advertisement. So it's lame, in my opinion. I mean, I'm happy there's Chrome, but you can't advertise that you're going to do a throwback livery and then not do the throwback livery, in my personal opinion. But
it looks like they're just trying to save money cost on paint is like how when I saw that I was like, okay, like this just looks like you're trying to cut corners here and save your weight cost and save money because of paint.
The reality is, like most things, the answer is that the FIA only lets teams completely change their livery and not just the secondary colors of their livery once a season. And McLaren has already done that at the Monaco GP. So apparently all they could do was leave the papaya. But I think the reality is the marketing team thought that they could market this as like, oh, it's this throwback thing, but it's not a throwback thing. And that just left most fans like me disappointed, because I would love to see the car that Lewis Hamilton won his first world championship in going back around the track, because it was a cool livery, but this is not that. Williams will also run a special livery this weekend in honor of their 800th Grand Prix entry. Reminder that this is their 799th due to the cancellation of the Imola GP, but the livery they will run will be in homage to late founder Sir Frank Williams. We actually haven't seen a picture of what their livery is yet. When you're all listening to this, we probably should have seen it in the pit lane. But because the MLGP was canceled, and even though this is now just their 799th Grand Prix, they wanted to keep most of their celebrations for their home Grand Prix, which I think is a really good move. So that is the grid walk for Sir Lewis Hamilton week completed. How's my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than the FIA wasn't reviewing all of the track limit violations from this past weekend, so...
Low bar. Yellow sector notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting with the Red Bull garage, Christian Horner did some karaoke with Adrian Newey post-race, and it's hard for me to say this because it's Christian Horner, but it was one of the best videos I've seen all season. I want to watch Adrian Newey do karaoke for a whole night. Red Bull, Williams, and Haas all ran a single car at the Pirelli tire test this week. Part of the aim of the test for Red Bull is to determine if Daniel Ricciardo should get a shot in the AlphaTauri seat. I wonder if by the time you are all listening to this, we know the answer to that question. McLaren and Mercedes will also be doing tire testing with Pirelli this week, but they're going to do a wet tire test where they're testing out putting guards over the tires to see if that will help with spray in wet conditions. Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly attended Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly attended Wimbledon this week. And no, Nicole and I didn't cross-reference our gossip grid and our yellow sector notes this week, but we normally do. Aston Martin ran a different livery at the British GP to welcome Valvoline as their new sponsor. Lastly, I want to point out a storyline from this weekend that I think people forgot about too quickly, and it's that Alpha underfueled Bottas's car, and it was disqualified from quali. There were too many stories that happened this weekend, so I understand why this is forgotten, but they purposely underfueled the car, or accidentally either. Like, this isn't something that I think we should just let go away without talking about. But that's it. That's the grid walk for July 13th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than the Danny Rick AlphaTauri rumors started popping up immediately after the race.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage, because this segment is my opportunity to tell you about news topics and things that happened that we didn't get a chance to cover. I'm going a little bit off grid this week, and I'm starting with an IndyCar story.
That's a different grid.
Different grid. But I make a tenuous F1 connection. And that's because this weekend, Christian Lundgaard, who is a formerly an F2 driver, by the way, that's my tenuous F1 connection, won his first race in IndyCar in his second season in the series. This story is exciting for so many reasons, and you might think I'm saying it's exciting because he's driving for like a back-of-the-grid team that even failed to qualify all their cars for the Indy 500, but that's not why I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this for two other reasons that are much more important. Reason number one, when Christian crossed the line first, they put a camera right on his best friend who attended this race, and he doesn't normally attend races. He just happened to come to this one, and his friend was bawling his eyes out, so happy and proud for his friend, and it was one of the sweetest displays of friendship that I've seen, specifically like male friendship, and I just started crying. Like, I was happy for Christian to win his first race. Like, that's really exciting. But I just bawling tears watching his friend cry, so happy for his friend to win this race. And a reminder that IndyCar is a spec series, so winning is really fucking hard. You would think that's all. No. That is not actually the true reason. I didn't just want to bring this up because I wanted to talk about how I cried watching the IndyCar race this weekend. No. Christian and this same best friend made a bet that they would both grow and not shave their mustaches until he won his first IndyCar race. And these mustaches were getting a bit old. And in some of the best content I've seen of the entire year, they both shaved their stashes on the podium post-champagne. So Nicole, we're gonna watch both of these moments. I'm gonna share his friend crying so you can feel heartfelt, and then we're gonna watch him shave his mustache because it was just glorious. I will say that when I saw him win the race, I just tweeted in all caps, "Shave the stash!"
And he heard you, and he did.
And more importantly, IndyCar, who doesn't normally jump on things this well, like, got him. Like, I thought he was gonna go home and shave it, and no. Their content found a razor, and all right. So, you'll all hear us in a moment after we finish watching this.
Oh my god! That's so awesome!
He'd never been to a race before.
That's unbelievable. Aww. Shave the stash. Shave the stash.
Wait, my favorite part is that the random man goes, "You're gorgeous." Just listen to this random journalist.
Multiple people, or multiple times of saying you're gorgeous.
Yeah. The long cut of this video is that he calls his friend up, and then he hands his friend the razor, and it goes, no, you do it. And then he had to shave his friend's stash. So, there we go. There's
iconic.
All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Now that the stash was shaved. Words. Obviously, if we'll link both of those in our show notes. So if you also missed this fantastic moment, you can watch it. All right, Christian Horner was interviewed on the F1 Run podcast F1 Nation this week, where he discussed all the details that led to Nick DeVries' firing and reassured everyone that Checo's seat is safe. There will be a dedicated kids feed for the race this weekend in the UK on Sky Sports. The broadcast will feature young commentators, unique graphics, and Nico Rosberg and Danica Patrick are going to be the adults in the room. I'm happy for Danica. That seems cool. Mercedes, Aston Martin, Williams, and McLaren all participated in the Goodwood Festival of Speed in England last weekend. Oscar Piastri, Alex Albon, Logan Sargent, Mick Schumacher, and Sebastian Vettel were just a few of the current and former F1 drivers who participated in this event. Toto was back at the Harvard Business School teaching this week. And finally, F1 is looking to make the engines of the 2026 regulations lighter and louder. That is the grid walk for July 20th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Red Bull is probably going to fire Checo.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting today with AlphaTauri, who is releasing a documentary about their 2021 and 2022 seasons. The film will also look back at its history and the origins of the team. The film will be premiering September 6, 2023 in Venice. So they're doing a full premiere for this documentary. Max Verstappen starred in the new Heineken commercial.
It actually looked like Max Verstappen is joining One Direction, and this is all deleted footage from the Night Changes music video, which I cannot unsee.
And yeah. It just convinced me that of the obvious connection that we make all the time, that the track from boy band fan to F1 fan is like a singular line and trajectory. Sergio Perez is launching a new program focused on helping both Mexican drivers and engineers get into Formula One. Alfa Romeo has a special livery this week highlighting their controversial title sponsor, Kick. Notably, there are green flames on the front wing, and the streamers working with Kick, their names should be on the halo. The F1 Commission met this week to discuss and vote on many topics. One of these topics is the option of engine equalization, as Alpine believes that its power unit is down 30 horsepower to its rivals. Reminder that we're in an engine performance freeze until 2026, so Alpine cannot simply just upgrade their power unit's performance to catch up. Another item on the agenda to potentially vote on is whether or not Williams is granted the adjustment to the cost cap to be able to invest in better infrastructure. So be on the lookout for some news about both of those topics coming soon. Also, since we didn't get a chance to dig into the engine equalization and that vote as a topic this week, I will throw in that Christian Horner has backed that we should just be looking at engine equalization going forward, which whenever Christian Horner is backing one of his rivals getting faster, I just think it's worth thinking about why that's the case and what's going on with their 2026 power unit that they're really supportive of Alpine right now. Pirelli is going to be doing a tire test next week, August 1st and 2nd at Spa after the Grand Prix. It will at least include the AMR23 driven by Stoffel Van Dorn. Ferrari has hired away a top Mercedes engineer, their performance director, Leoc Serrera. He will not actually be able to start for the Ferrari team until 2025, though. Rumors are swirling about both Haas drivers entering into silly season. K-Mac's contract extension seems to be less of a given, and Nico said that his bleach job was, quote, "I thought a bit of extra PR for me is pretty handy this time of season." Is Nico angling for a different job? Is Nico's contract extension not a given at Haas? I don't know what's going on. And lastly, Toto may or may not have leaked, on purpose or accidentally, the length of the upcoming Lewis Hamilton contract to the F1 Juniors this week. It may or may not be 2 years, depending on what you believe. We will see. But Lewis did threaten us this week that they will not be announcing it until Abu Dhabi. That is the grid walk for July 27th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than we realized that this is our 27th episode being released on the 27th.
I can't believe I led with Eagles training camp and not that.
Well, I can.
Welcome to Yellow Sector Notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. I
forget that you look at me when I do that, and I just now do it because I'm so used to hearing you say it. I'm so sorry.
Those who are on audio only, just know that every time I do that, Nicole sits there and mouths what I'm saying at me and is like really sassy about it. And every week I try not to break as she does that. You could go over to YouTube and watch her do that. And if you go back to the last like 10 episodes, they're all every time. Now, I will warn you that Yellow Sector Notes might slow down a little bit as we enter summer break and everyone goes on hiatus. So, news is a little sparse, but not this week. We got some good things to talk about. Starting with, Mercedes has announced that their F2 title contender, Federic Vessi, will drive FP1 in Mexico City later this year. It will be his first FP1 run. Reminder that all the teams have to run rookie drivers in both of their cars in an FP1, and no one has done it yet this season. Unlike last season, where early on there was some interspersed, so it's going to be a little chaotic and rapid for the second half of the year here. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris flew directly from the end of race podium celebrations to Tomorrowland on Sunday night to watch Martin Garrix perform. And I do really enjoy all the memes that Martin Garrix is the true wag of the F1 paddock. They're really great. Lance and Oscar Piastri were in their respective cars again on Tuesday for a Pirelli tire test, where they are still in Spa and they're testing the 2024 wet and inter tires. Sophia Flores became the first female driver to score points in F3 this weekend, driving from P24 to P7 in the feature race. Of note, this is the second time we've had this announcement because she was disqualified the last time she did it for a tech thing that the team did to the car. Similarly, in great news for women in motorsports, we touched on it earlier, but it's also in the Yellow Sector Notes today. Susie Wolf announced that the F1 Academy will be broadcast for every race going forward as they officially join the F1 Support Series circuit with their season finale at the US Grand Prix, and they will be an F1 support race for every race in 2024. You can design an NFT and end up on the back of the Williams rear wing going forward as a partnership they're doing with a crypto sponsor. It looks like Zhou Guanyu plays Mario Kart as Peach, which I love. Danny Rick and his sponsor... words. Danny Rick and his sponsor Optus are giving out 64 $3,000 grants to kids 13 to 19 who have big ideas in association with the Women's World Cup that's currently going on in Australia and New Zealand. And finally, last but not least, Gunther made guac, and it was extra. Those are the Yellow Sector Notes for episode 28 of Grid Walk. How's my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than we transported ourselves to a tropical vacation. Because it's summer break, okay?
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap. Well, not this week. This week we're not completing a full lap around the paddock because it's silly season. There's only it's summer break, not really. There's only so much news. I don't know. Bear with me. I'm giving you the good news if there is news to be told. All right? So, starting with some McLaren news, it has been formally announced that IndyCar drivers Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward will be getting the McLaren Rookie FP1 sessions this year. I'm so excited. Please give Pato the Mexico race. Thank you. Not McLaren, I read McLaren. It's Mercedes. Mercedes released their sustainability report for this year, which is a really interesting report that they do to hold themselves accountable. Yuki dropped new merch. It's currently only available in Japan, but he says global shipping is coming really soon. It's also really cool. He's really leaning into the fall leaf vibe. I really like it. McLaren and Coke continue to have the most confusing brand relationship on the grid, in my opinion. I never know if Coca-Cola is actually sponsoring McLaren, and then they just randomly drop a Coca-Cola Burger King McLaren sponsorship combination. But I don't know. It's confusing, but it exists. So McLaren is doing some kind of giveaway with Burger King. Oscar Piastri has dropped flip-flops. Leaning into the meme. Did you see this meme?
I did not, but now I will have to do a deep dive.
Yeah. Crash course, because I'm not the perfect person to retell this, but I think Oscar Orlando did one of those videos of Aussie slang and flip-flops.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I did see this. Okay,
yeah.
It came back.
So then Oscar actually went to his merch team and they made flip-flops. And I think they named them thong standals, and he's gonna send Lando a pair. I don't know. I just like leaning into the meme. Zhou Guanyu visited a Lululemon shop in China, which is a brand that he's currently an ambassador of, and all the videos looked insane. He was totally swarmed. It's really cool to see just how popular he is in his home country, and I am excited for when we go back and race there, and he gets to have a home race next year. fingers crossed that contract is coming soon. This week, someone was quoted as saying that Alpine wants to be the French Ferrari. I'm just going to leave that there. SD Bestie teased new merch, speaking of Alpine. And last but not least, Roscoe will be in the new F1 movie that Lewis Hamilton is producing.
I can't wait.
Those are the Yellow Sector notes for episode 29 of Gridwalk. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Delta canceled my flight today.
That's pretty fast. Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting almost every F1 garage. It's summer break, and the news cycle has come to a dramatic halt. So we'll go back to hitting every F1 team next week when the season really picks up again. But we'll start out with Ferrari. Ferrari is rumored to run a livery at Monza, celebrating their 24 Hours of Le Mans win this year. There's also rumored to be matching merchandise.
There may have been some leaked photos on some social medias, and it's giving some vibes that Charles and Carla should practice. Would you like fries with that when wearing them?
I also love the idea that the historic Ferrari race team that can't win races right now needs to support the Le Mans team at the Italian GP this year. Like, there's just politics in that I find hysterical. Which leads me to my next story that I'm actually really hyped about, and we should do a full segment on in the coming weeks. But reported by racefans.net, the International Olympics Committee is evaluating the inclusion of motorsports for the 2028 Games to be held in Los Angeles. Do I know how that would happen? No. How would that work? Who would be included? Doesn't it feel a little late to be talking about Olympic Games in 2028? All true. But I'd be hyped. That sounds really fun. There are rumors swirling linking Mick Schumacher to the second Williams seat, depending on how Logan Sargent performs for the rest of the season. Max dropped his Dutch GP merch, including his special helmet. F1 is rumored to be exploring a DRS ban in qualifying, their latest attempt to change the best part of their weekend product. I won't waste your time today explaining how this would actually help Red Bull, not hurt Red Bull, but if it is confirmed, expect me to go in on them. That is the grid walk for August 17th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than summer break has come to an end.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage because we're back from summer break, so I do have at least something to say about every F1 team. Adrian Newey, currently the Red Bull technical director and the former McLaren technical director. If you look back in history, if McLaren was fast, it was probably Newey. If Red Bull was fast, it was probably Newey. He wore a McLaren hat and caused the entire internet to just melt down. Lance Stroll drove the prototype Aston Martin endurance racing car, the Valkyrie, at a track in Portugal this week. Alpine has no real news. I think that's just because they're trying to figure out who's in charge of the team after firing everyone right before summer shutdown. VB is going to be launching a wine brand soon. Rumors are swirling around about the Haas driver seats for next season. Either both drivers are secure, both drivers are not secure, one is leaving, another one's needing. I've seen every headline. Similarly, there's rumors going around that Charles Leclerc's contract extension is going to be announced at the Italian GP. If there is one. Again, rumors. I don't know. There continues to be discussions of AlphaTauri moving their base from Italy next to Red Bull in the UK next season, which is opening up a lot of questions about the legality of that. Williams team principal James Vowles says 5-year plans are pointless, and the max you should plan for is 3, which seems like a direct stab at Alpine, but he didn't directly say that. I'm just reading into that. Zach Brown told ESPN this week that their new wind tunnel is fully online. And last but not least, Lewis Hamilton continues to be the GOAT. The FIA is now conducting an internal review of all their verbiage across all the regulations and all their series to make it gender neutral after Hamilton pointed out that the regulations still refer to drivers using only the he pronoun. That is the grid walk for August 24th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than F1 teams are returning to work after summer break.
Give us some news.
It's so quiet right now. Just can't.
Scary quiet.
Scary quiet. Something's brewing.
Uh-huh. Where are those cost cap news?
Oh boy. They want us to forget, and we haven't. Thank you, as always, to VoiceOver Man and our four-legged executive producers, and a big no thanks to the inventor of bike seats. Why are they so uncomfortable? On actual bikes, on exercise bikes? I demand answers. We don't need to live like this in 2023.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Reminder, if you don't watch this on YouTube, Nicole mouths that along with me every single week. First note on our Yellow Sector Notes today is that Taylor Swift performed at the stadium where the Mexico GP was held this last weekend, which means that she actually sold out the Mexican GP 4 times.
Four full times. As soon as I saw people getting led into the Mexico GP grandstands, I was like, wow, all of my loves are combining together as one. It was, incredible.
Aston Martin is going to be running a rookie driver during FP1 this weekend. Rumor has it that the new Lewis Hamilton Funko Pop will drop this December. It looks so cute. He's in a little car. There's already an existing, by the way, I'm saying new Lewis Hamilton Funko Pop because if you didn't know, he already has one, and I also really like that one. It's just out of reach right now, or I would pull it into frame.
Yep,
Isn't yours in frame?
Mine is not in this room.
Okay. Hold on, I said it. Please hold.
We got ours at the Peterson Museum.
Yes,
So if
we
you're
did.
in LA, highly recommend a visit. Oh, he's so cute! His earring! Oh, I love Funko Pops more than probably any person above the age of 20 should. But, wow. And will I buy Lewis Hamilton in a car? You best believe it.
Me too. My favorite thing is that he has a nose ring, which is very relevant. And I like that they gave him, like, dreads and a ponytail. So, yes, moving on from that, Max Verstappen got the replacement for his broken Hungarian GP trophy. Reddit was actually featured on the halo of Alpine's car this past weekend in a partnership they did with the brand. Haas announced that both of their drivers will be returning for 2024, so my Hulk to Red Bull prediction has not panned out. And yes, I know that was announced a week ago, but we missed it in the last recording. So in case you missed it, now you know. And nothing
Like
else
a day. We recorded, they announced it, and we were like, oh, Haas.
Yep. But the good news is that there's almost never news for Haas. It's like almost the least eventful team on the grid. So I'm telling everyone now in case you missed it. McLaren introduced a new rear wing concept this last weekend that aims at reducing drag. They're really following what every other team on the grid is doing now. Ferrari has started to make lots of headlines because they're talking about their brand new car concept for 2024. Nicole, are you feeling hopeful?
No. Just no.
Logan Sargent's crash last weekend was due to a car malfunction where he lost all of power steering, so Williams came out and took full blame and responsibility for the crash. AlphaTauri has announced that Liam Lawson will continue to drive for the team until Daniel Ricciardo is fit to drive, but he will not be permanently replacing Daniel Ricciardo. We also failed to point out last weekend that Alfa Romeo had graffiti-themed race suits, garage names, and an overall livery. So we're telling you now in case you missed it because no team gets less attention or airtime on the grid than Alfa Romeo. So you might not even have seen the car. That is the grid walk for August 31st, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Ferrari got tires to the pit stop.
Low bar.
You're not asking for much.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. So, big news. All teams were announced as compliant with the cost cap for 2022. Most importantly, I know it's shocking for everyone, but Haas was compliant. But I will point out that normally when there's smoke, there's fire in F1, so I do think we all have a reason to be suspicious about this announcement, considering there were months of reporting about how over everyone was. So just, I don't know. Okay, moving on. Carlos Sainz was running in a Pirelli wet tire test for the 2024 wet tires Tuesday in Italy, because when you're listening to this, it's Thursday. Today is Tuesday. Got it. Moving on. A little behind the curtain there. Stay to the end for the Yellow Sector Notes. McLaren are planning on bringing upgrades to the next race, the Singapore GP, to help with straight line speed, which, as you saw this week, they did kind of struggle with. They saw the back of Alex Albon's rear wing for the entirety of that race, except for the little moment where they saw the back of Lewis's. Andretti Autosport is rebranding to Andretti Global that they announced this week. This seems like the branding move could be a signal for something, or not. They could just be rebranding from Autosport to Global, or they could be joining a global motorsport effort. Moving on, Esteban is teasing a drop with SD Bestie merch. Mercedes is releasing a special t-shirt specifically for the Singapore GP, which always reminds me that every team should be doing special shirts for every race. It is so cool. I really like the shirt. Unfortunately, Nicole, cover your ears. Daniel Ricciardo is confirmed to be out for the Singapore GP and is rumored for the Japanese GP as well, and would make his return in Qatar. Aston Martin has dropped to 4th in the Constructors, which I'm really bringing up because I had nothing else to say for them this week. But I will remind you that compared to last year, this is fantastic. I think if they manage to finish the season in 4th, that would be an incredible achievement. But I'm sure they're bummed, considering about 2 weeks ago they were 2nd. F1 Academy Championship contender and Sauber Academy driver Lena Bueller spent the Italian GP in the Alfa Romeo garage. That is a mouthful I wrote for myself there. Including getting to be in the car for pit stop practice, which looked really cool. I'm glad she got that experience. And last but not least, Duracell has a sweepstakes running with Williams giving away 2 tickets to the Vegas GP. Make sure you go enter because it would be really exciting if one of you won, and you know it, or if we won. Hi Duracell, that would be fun. Okay, bye. That is the grid walk for September 7th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Lewis finally announced his contract extension.
As always, that is a low bar for me to hurdle over. Yo, sector notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. There's a lot to go through today, despite the fact that Nicole had a full gossip grid. So, for starters, the Japanese Grand Prix announced that they're going to be doing a fan festival leading up to the Grand Prix next week. Complex wrote an entire article about Zhou Guanyu's love of sneakers, including some custom Kobe's. It's a very cool article, you should go check it out. AlphaTauri did premiere their documentary about the 2021 season in Venice. Yuki looked incredibly cool on that boat. Haas is planning a full upgrade package for the US GP. Perez released photos of his special helmet for his 250th Grand Prix, which is an incredible accomplishment. Just a reminder, though, that Lewis Hamilton has more poles than most drivers on the grid have races. That's not a dish at Perez, it was just an opportunity for me to bring it up. Also, race wins, it doesn't have to be poles. I don't know why I said poles. Speaking of Lewis, though, because he was in Italy for the Italian GP, he did a full interview with GQ Italy, which is really great. I also recommend checking that one out. Charles went on stage and introduced a rock band to the crowd. It was very endearing. It wasn't really very pump up, here's a band! It was, I don't know, it was a good video. Alpine had a big event this weekend, and admittedly, I couldn't figure out what was going on. So this is really my plea for you. Anyone who knows, please explain to me in the comments. Reach out to us on social media. What was Alpine doing? I don't know.
I had the
But it looked exciting.
panicked of what was this large 3-day event? I think they were premiering some new Alpine cars. I don't know, and it reminded me that I wanted to ask you. So you saying exactly this made me feel seen. I also was look at this big party.
And it looked incredible. It looked like a great time. Esteban Ocon was on stage with a rapper. I would love to know what happened. Most of the coverage is in French. My Google Translate wasn't working. I don't know. And by wasn't working, I mean it was translating, but the translations weren't telling me what. So someone please tell me.
There was no C translation option.
Right. I don't know. I was actually copy and pasting things into the actual Google Translate because there was no translation option, and I still couldn't figure out what was going on. F1 in Schools announced that they had a record number of entries this year. Red Bull is giving away what they're calling the Daniel Ricciardo Road Trip giveaway to their Paddock Club members. Speaking of Red Bull, F1 is selling celebratory merch for Max's 10-win-in-a-row record that clearly they did not run by a single woman, despite the fact that there is a women's option to buy this. It will be up on the screen on the YouTube video. What were you thinking? Okay? And again, go over to YouTube if you want to see. Because All right, Frederick Vesey will be doing the rookie FP1 for Mercedes in Mexico. He was in the sim this week for that. And last but not least, AlphaTauri has announced that last year they're following the same path McLaren is on, where they're going to be integrating digital ad screens into their car. That is the grid walk for September 14th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than we were able to bring back Gossip Grid, but it's back.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting almost every F1 garage. Again, Haas was a little boring this week. All right. Really, Gunther, go make some news, please. It's behind the curtain here. Every week before Yellow Sector Notes, I'm like, Nicole's like, what teams are you missing? Can I help you fill in some gaps for some stories? And every week I'm like, Haas,
AlphaTauri. Well, okay.
Yeah, AlphaTauri.
Haas always.
Always Haas. It's Haas and like a couple other, yeah. So let's get into the Yellow Sector Notes. Starting out with my favorite note of the week, which is that Lewis Hamilton was nominated for People's Sexiest Athlete of the Year. Now, admittedly, he's going up against stiff competition, not because they're sexier than Lewis Hamilton, but because they're all like NFL players and this mostly American audience. So go vote for Lewis Hamilton. If you still can by the time you're listening to this, I forgot the end date. Also, another Lewis Hamilton note this week. He is dropping his special plus 44 line for the Japanese GP. Nicole in the YouTube video is modeling last year's, which I also have. It was a really cool collaboration. This year, he's also collaborating with a local Japanese artist for it. Similarly, Jo Guan-yu teased something coming soon with a famous Japanese streetwear designer. I'm super excited to see whatever he cooks up there, because Joe has merchandise, but it's only available in China. So I just want him to do something global. It'd be really cool. Xbox has signed an agreement to sponsor Alpine starting this weekend. Speaking of merch, Esteban Ocon dropped his merch line, which includes 2 Esty Bessie themed items, including one that says Esty Bessie's on the podium, baby! Max has a special helmet for this weekend. Ferrari is rumored to be bringing a big floor upgrade for the Japanese GP. Williams will continue to run their Golf livery this weekend, which I am hyped about. McLaren will also continue to run their Stealth livery, which makes a lot less sense for a day GP. Background to this, they're not going to fly a new car in, because they're basically taking the car from Singapore and it went to Japan, so there's not a lot of time to switch up liveries, which is a positive in one case with Williams and kind of a con in McLaren, depending on how you feel about that livery. Lando and McLaren just dropped Mexico GP merch. And last but not least, Adidas is rumored to be in a bidding war with Hugo Boss over the AlphaTauri title sponsorship for 2024. I have to say that I'm partial to Adidas winning this. Not because I think Hugo Boss isn't a cool brand, but I just love the idea of a 3-stripe livery. And that is the grid walk for September 21st, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Taylor Swift broke the Google servers today.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting out with not an F1 team, but something we can't miss discussing on the show today, which is that Sebastian Vettel was back in the paddock this weekend. There's now a corner at the Suzuka circuit called Buzzing Corner, where they're a home for bees that every driver decorated this past weekend. Staying with Sebastian Vettel, again, I promise we'll get to the grid in a second, but there are now rumors of him returning to racing in 2024 for a World Endurance Championship run that will include its hallmark Le Mans, and we might have to go if that's the case. Just throw it out there. But if you don't know this about either of us, we're not big campers, so we need to, I don't know. Le Mans would be an interesting experience that we should do for sure before we get too old and grumpier about camping. All right, now moving into the grid itself. Teams are unhappy and now publicly issuing complaints to the FIA for favoring Max and Red Bull after the dramatic happenings of the Singapore GP, to which I say thank you, but it took you long enough thing, all right? This week was the 2-year anniversary of Lewis Hamilton winning over 100 races. Charles Leclerc passed over 1,000 career points with Ferrari at this past Japanese GP. In big news, Jess Hawkins was the first woman to test an F1 car since 2018 when she test drove the Aston Martin this week. It was great to see Aston Martin showing, not just telling, and giving this opportunity to her. But in the same breath, 2018, come on. I mean, this is a baby step when we're looking for leaps. It better not be another 5+ years before we get another woman testing an F1 car. We're not even talking about driving an F1. This was testing an F1. All right, rant saved for another day, compartmentalized. McLaren announced this past week that it extended Oscar Piastri's contract through 2026, and I'm personally very excited. There are rumors connecting Mick Schumacher to an Alpine racing seat next year, but it's not what you think. It's actually the World Endurance Championship Alpine seat, not their F1 seat, as disappointing as that sounds. I would love to see Mick run in the World Endurance Championship. Just want him back in a car. Alex Albon openly criticized the F1 penalty system this week for not deterring bad driving. He thinks that a 5-second penalty isn't enough because clearly there's a lot of bad driving happening. So the whole point of the penalty system is to uphold good driving standards and increase fairness, and he believes that's not happening, and I have to agree with you, Alex Albon. The Haas team continues to exist. VB's wine brand is releasing in the US right in time with the USGP weekend, so if you're looking to try it and you live in the US, next month is going to be when we all get access to it. Horner told the media that Lawson is not in line for the second Williams seat because no team wants to take on a driver for just a 1-year loaner. That was the grid walk for September 28th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than the NFL utilized having the world's biggest pop star in their attendance.
I don't even like podcasts.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around a paddock, hitting every F1 garage. And this week, I have an actual Haas note, which feels worthy of celebrating.
They still exist!
They do! But starting with Ferrari, Charles was announced this week as the face of the new Facebook and Ray-Bans collab that basically just looked like Snapchat spectacles, but the ad was really cool. You should head over to @GridwalkShow and see the video Nicole put together on it. F1 Arcade has announced its next location. We already knew that it was coming to Boston in spring, but this summer it's actually going to be in Washington, D.C. as well. I will continue to groan that they haven't announced New York or LA yet, because we both want to go. Maybe we need to make a Boston or D.C. trip. Esteban participated in an Alpine rally event this past week. Both Mercedes drivers are supporting the Girls Go Free initiative at the Silverstone Museum, where girls are getting free tickets to see what looks to be amazing museum all about motorsports at the Silverstone track. So if you live in that area or you can get there, please take girls to go see it this month. It's free. K-Mag played in Confetti with a sponsor. Williams will still have their Gulf livery this week. This is the last week, so I'm excited and I'm sad to see it go. Red Bull did a really cool show run in Chicago this past weekend. Speaking of cities that would be great to have an F1 arcade. Okay, so this story is really cool for Alfa Romeo. Their whiskey sponsor is Whistle Pig. And Whistle Pig released a line that is inspired by the F1 team. And the promotion that they did for it is they put barrels of the whiskey in the Sauber wind tunnel to expose it to G-forces and to see if that would better infuse the whiskey. So it's a fun PR stunt. It's also really cool. And the whole thing is inspired by both the drivers. So there's a 77 in it for VB, and then they chose some traditionally Chinese ingredients to be infused in the whiskey because of Joe. 2 notes for Aston Martin this week. One is they posted a loss publicly on the F1 team for their 2022 financials. Take that all with a grain of salt. I'll just put that out there. And 2, Aston Martin is publicly pushing for more standardized parts for the 2026 regulations for cost reduction purposes. I am completely anti that. Please don't make the one non-spec series more spec. Thank you. But now you'll see why the notes are connected. Cost reduction. Yep. McLaren's new wind tunnel has officially been announced as online and fully operational, so all future updates and specifically the future work they're going to be doing for next year's car will be done in their new wind tunnel. Yuki cooked for Liam Lawson on the AlphaTauri YouTube channel. It was a really cute video, you should go check it out. And lastly, tire update. I'm sure you saw at the Japanese GP that Pirelli had all the teams testing some new tires because they were planning on bringing a new C2 for next year, but they have completely scrapped that because they saw no improvement in the tests that they ran. So the new C2 wasn't going to be any better than the old C2, so next year it's going to be the same compound.
That is the grid walk for October.
Yep.
Huh? What month is it? Where
October
are we?
5th.
Who am I?
That is the grid walk for October 5th, 2023 completed. Happy October. Happy spooky season, everyone. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than all of those news outlets, blew those social stats way out of proportion.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting with Red Bull, Max had a really cool special world champion helmet this weekend. I loved the color scheme. Lewis continues to tease some new venture by following a private Instagram account. Also, Mercedes note, additional, they confirmed that there's going to be a new floor coming to the USGP. It has been decently formally announced now that Estrella plans to leave Ferrari as a sponsor at the end of the season, and it's rumored that they might join Alonso at Aston Martin. So basically, the Spanish beer brand that has gone everywhere with Carlos Sainz is leaving Carlos Sainz. I don't know, drama. Lance is apparently under FIA investigation for some of the incidents that happened at the GP last weekend. McLaren, if you haven't heard, set a world record with their 1.8 second pit stop this weekend, which is absurd. It's also crazy that Red Bull no longer holds that record because they are like the pit stop kings and queens. Alpine probably should have signed Oscar Piastri. Moving on to AlphaTauri, this is Nicole's last race without Daniel Ricciardo for at least the rest of the season. He's also teased that he's dropping music. If you're not watching on YouTube, Nicole is silently screaming right now for all the reasons and things we just said. Williams dropped their USGP merch line again this year, and I still super regret not getting the hockey jersey that they dropped last year. It was so cool. I'm sad I missed the opportunity. So if you like something, pick it up because you'll probably regret it. Williams continues to do the most with their merch, and I like it. VB has teased that he's dropping a coffee collab. Haas announced their rookie driver FP1 sessions. The first is going to be at the Mexico GP. And last but not least, guess what? Pirelli is back until 2027 as the F1 tire supplier. I'm super hyped. That is the grid walk for October 12th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Lawrence Stroll gave anti-Andretti joining the grid quotes.
Oh, he was there super fast.
Oh, you basically had to know he was almost going to be first.
You know what? They all got together and decided who was going to be the face and do this first interview, and it honestly was probably a good choice.
I volunteer as tribute.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting with an F1 note today, it was announced that Spa extended their contract with F1 through 2025. Now on to the teams. Williams announced that they signed on to Puma as an official team supplier, joining Ferrari, Mercedes, and the overall global F1 brand. Haas has special USGP race suits and a car livery again this year. Lewis spoke with British GQ this week about fashion in general, is how I would describe it. Definitely go read the article, it's really good. I'm not going to be able to sum it up just in a short Yellow Sector note. Checo is doing a collab with a major shirt manufacturer in Mexico called Acapella, and he's also doing pop-up store events for the GP week. So if you live in major cities in Mexico, go check out the Acapella Instagram account and Checo's Instagram account to go meet him. Seems cool what he's doing. Charles Leclerc took some time in New York before the USGP in Austin this week, and he attended a Nets game. Aston Martin is doing a bunch of fan storytelling this week for the USGP, highlighting Austin-based fans to talk about their stories of becoming an F1 fan. Alpine note this week is actually about their endurance racing, because we did talk about their big news, which is their investor news already today. But Nick will be testing in the Alpine race car soon for their endurance team. And I will probably insert the fun recording I did with my mom when she popped in to pick up the dog and say hello to Nicole, because she was very excited for Nick. Valtteri Bottas announced that he's going to be doing a bike event again, and this time in Australia. McLaren did some development driver testing last week in Barcelona. And last but not least, AlphaTauri is set to announce their new title sponsor soon, based on quotes coming out from the team saying they know who it is and the contract is signed. But you know what's going to happen, honestly, is that between now, like this recording, and the time this is released, they will announce it. But at this point, I can just keep saying, why are you still teasing it? Just tell us who it's going to be, please. And I will leave that in and just make fun of myself if, by the time you all hear this, it has happened. So that's it. Those are the Yellow Sector notes for October, what is the date? October 19th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than all of these athletes are investing in Alpine.
For the first time, I think you're wrong. I think I was slower than that today. Yellow Sector notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. This week, there was a ton that happened in the race that we obviously couldn't get to, this, I'm sure. I don't know how long you've been listening to the episode, but it's been a long time now. So a lot of our Yellow Sector notes today are things that happened in the race last weekend that we think are worth touching on before we head to Mexico. So starting with Red Bull, they did have a down weekend by their standards, and I can't believe we didn't get to fully discuss this on the pod this week. So, despite no one being able to capitalize on it, Max had brake issues the entire race, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if that continues to be a problem going into this weekend. Mercedes note today is a fun one. Happy 11th birthday, Roscoe Hamilton. Our favorite superstar of the paddock. Ferrari note today is about Charles Leclerc. Variety reported that he signed with Endeavor Management Agency, which is a US-based agency. They will handle all of his Hollywood-related and media-related projects. I think he now becomes the fourth driver on the grid to have some US-based management. Obviously, Daniel Lewis and Alex Albon are the three other drivers. This feels like a long time coming. I'm shocked it took Charles Leclerc this long to sign on with someone and start doing more US-based projects. McLaren jumped Aston Martin for fourth in the Constructors this week after Lando was promoted to P2 at the US GP. Speaking of, Aston Martin and Haas both got their setup so poor this past weekend that they started from the pit lane. They're likely both very excited for the full suite of free practices we're going to get at a normal race weekend for the Mexico GP. So some notes about how they spent the US GP. If you missed it, Aston spent it as a testing session where Alonso got the Qatar setup of the car, Stroll got a modified setup of the upgrade so they could compare and contrast. And we'll see what they bring this week and what they choose to run. It was announced this week that Alpine appointed a new power unit technical director. He spent the last 3 years at Ferrari and previously worked for the Mercedes PU Center. Williams left the weekend with the strangest double point finish I've seen in a really long time, but yay, Alex Albon P9. Alfa Romeo is looking to compete with Williams for P7 in the Constructors after what looked to be a very successful upgrade they brought in Qatar. They also are the latest team to hop on a rear wing cutout trend in the back. All the rear wings are starting to get this very dramatic slant in the corners that has been cut out. Gunther Steiner admitted that the upgraded car they ran this weekend did not correlate to what they expected, and not just because it was slow. And last but not least, unfortunately, Daniel Ricciardo's return to the car was a bit lackluster, but I'm sure he is looking for a better result this weekend that will make Nicole Katz much, much happier. That is the grid walk for October 26, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Mercedes pit stops.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. All right, to be honest with you all, the rumors that are swirling around F1 right now have made my ability to actually find news that I think you should all know about every team on the grid nearly impossible. So we're not going to hit every garage this week. It's the third race of a busy triple header. I just hope you all forgive me for what's going to be a very rapid-fire Yellow Sector Notes of some interesting notes, but definitely not every garage. No full lap this week. The Vegas GP is still not sold out. The Spanish broadcaster DAZN extends their broadcast partnership with F1 through 2026. Lewis Hamilton set the record for podiums in Formula One with 197 this past weekend, breaking Lewis Hamilton's record of 196. Nico Hülkenberg celebrated his 200th Grand Prix start at the Mexico GP this past weekend, and Mercedes announced that they reduced emissions year over year by 67% with their use of biofuel during the European leg of the F1 season. As, by the way, a reminder that all the F1 teams are ramping up to being completely carbon neutral in the next coming seasons. And that is your very, very quick and short grid walk for November 2nd, 2023. I read too many things at once. Let me start again. That is the grid walk for November 2nd, 2023 completed. How's my sector time today, Nicole?
Definitely so much faster than we will find out what Will and Albert were like actually tweeting about.
I don't think we'll ever know. I think they were toying with us.
I don't think we'll ever really know. There's nothing. They're just snickering like, hee, there's nothing.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. Starting with F1, they announced an extension for the Brazilian GP this weekend. They are extended through 2030. Patron is partnering with Sergio Perez again for another US-based Grand Prix ticket giveaway for the Vegas GP. Make sure you enter. Mission 44, Lewis Hamilton's nonprofit, announced plans to enter Brazil, adding it to the list of countries they plan on entering in the upcoming year. They currently do work in Great Britain, but plan to expand to Brazil now, the US, and South Africa all within the next year. Ferrari is so obsessed with putting numbers on the stomach of their merch. This is now becoming a trend I don't understand. And you'll if you haven't seen the Ferrari Vegas merch and the Ferrari USGP merch, just put them side by side. I don't get it. I don't understand. McLaren extended their partnership with sports clothing brand Mitchell & Ness with a line of jersey-inspired McLaren merch for the Vegas GP. They did this last year for the US GP. It was really sick last year. It's really cool this year. Ferrari, take notes. It was announced that Felipe Drugovich will remain as the Aston Martin reserve driver this upcoming year. Williams sponsor Duracell is also doing a Vegas GP ticket giveaway, so make sure to enter that one this week as well. Alright, cool story going on with AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri announced a partnership with the Japanese franchise Gundam. The impact of the Gundam franchise in Japan is often compared to the massive cultural impact that Star Wars had here in America. So it is a huge, huge brand. It has now expanded globally. Big deal. This is a really big sponsorship deal that they're doing. They're going to be doing pop-up stores around the track in Vegas. They're putting logos on the car and in other places. Plus, they made a custom AlphaTauri mech, which looks incredible. Plus, the promo that Yuki did for it was really cool. So, love seeing this. Doesn't get me as hyped as the Star Wars thing earlier in the show, but like I understand that it's on that level, so it's really cool that this is happening for the Vegas GP. Alright, in some more serious news, Haas exercised its right to review this week over the results of the US GP, stating that track limits were not equitably... that they basically said that more track limit penalties should have happened, and it wasn't equal across the board during the race. To which I say, duh, we all know that, but now we get to wait and see if the FIA is too prideful or if they're willing to admit what we all already know. Some timeline to this, they had the Wednesday, the day before you're listening to this, they did the hearing where everyone came and testified, and then there's going to be an additional date that is yet to be announced where they announce the results of said hearing. Stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date. That is the grid walk for November 9th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than I got my 1989 cardigan.
Yellow sector notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. It is only Wednesday evening, and Vegas has been overwhelming me with news. There's so much to keep up with. So hang in there. There's a lot to get through, and I am sure I'm going to miss something. But let's start with liveries and helmets. As of now, Ferrari is running a 1940s inspired livery. Red Bull's fan design livery has been revealed with some really cool wheel covers. McLaren teamed up with their sponsor Jack Daniels for a mostly black livery for this weekend. Alpine has a slight pattern on their car. Alfa Romeo has teased a new livery, but at this point in the weekend, we haven't seen it yet. We have to get the episode to you. Same with AlphaTauri. Williams livery looks like Vegas threw up on it. Or more, I would actually say Williams livery looks like a Vegas brochure threw up on it. No news as of now for Mercedes, Haas, or Aston Martin. I'm assuming they're just running their normal liveries this weekend. And when 7 of the 10 cars on the grid are doing that, to the 3 cars that are not, I am looking at you. Why no fun? Okay, moving on. Now on to special helmets that we know about at this point. I really feel like in the next 12 hours, we're going to get a ton more. But Lando continues his trend of always having like the sickest and most unique designs. He's decided to, instead of going casino, to lean into the desert environment by putting snakes on the helmet. And it really is cool, even though the snakes freak me out. George revealed an all-sparkle version of his helmet, similar to what he did in Singapore last year. Oscar is doing a dark mode chrome helmet, and that's not chrome as in the material, chrome as in Google Chrome, because this is basically the pair for the Google sponsorship that Lando did at the British GP earlier. Max has a Vegas-inspired lid that did go very casino, but the biggest helmet reveal that we've had so far. Esty Bestie, he exchanged his Spider-Man inspired helmet that he's been racing with all year for a Deadpool helmet this weekend, complete with a video of him showing Deadpool himself the lid, and now he's Daddy Esteban. Cue Nicole screaming.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so if you're new to Gridwalk, I love everything Marvel related. I love Spider-Man. I love Esty Bestie leaning into Marvelness. I love Deadpool. This is like a thing I've been waiting for since the whole Ryan Reynolds announcement of the investing and the thing and and he did it. And he did it, and we've requested a Deadpool helmet, and it's so good. It's like legitimately comic Deadpool sketch, and the video with Ryan Reynolds of him being like, look what I did. And then the fast lap and all of the things, and then Ryan Reynolds gives Esty Bestie a friendship bracelet that says Daddy, and it's everything I wanted the whole exchange to be and more. And I can't wait for Esty Bestie to be at a Deadpool premiere, because it's inevitable. Oh my god, I just need him in like a Deadpool outfit now. There needs to be more. I can't wait to see the content that comes this weekend.
My favorite thing about watching Esty Bestie with most celebrities is that with some of them you can tell he's like just a fan, and I love that humanness, and like knowing that he's like a big comic book guy, like you could feel that he was like, oh my gosh, Ryan Reynolds, I get to do this thing with Ryan Reynolds.
Look at my helmet, Deadpool, look at you, it's you.
And I like that. Ryan Reynolds is just always Ryan Reynolds in the best way possible. I can't wait to see him do more things with Alpine. All right. We finally have some movement on the Andretti story. GM has decided to upgrade their title sponsorship under their Cadillac brand to a potential engine deal by registering with the FIA for 2028. We're going to be discussing this completely on our Vegas GP recap episode on Monday, because honestly, we want to wait to see if more news comes out this weekend and hear reactions from all the people around the paddock that this may be happening. Also, because this weekend isn't jam-packed with enough news, AMUS has been able to reveal the first renderings of the potential 2026 regulations. So overall, I would describe the renderings as a smaller version of the current cars with a little bit of the previous generation, like being put back in there. And it's small, awesome. Would love small. Smaller cars would be great. And we'll also talk about this more on Monday's episode, because again, this episode's been long enough, and I would like to be able to freak out for at least 15 minutes about these new potential regulations for 2026. And despite all that, I haven't even gotten to the normal Gridwalk content where we give you news all up and down the paddock. So let's get back to the normal Yellow Sector notes. Red Bull sent a show car to the Gaslamp District in San Diego this week to promote the Vegas GP. Yes, I did almost drive down to San Diego to see it. I resisted and decided to be a responsible adult and do my job. Fernando Alonso posed with flowers on a magazine cover as GQ Spain's Man of the Year. Mercedes dropped the 2023 versions of their ugly Christmas sweaters for this year, both a winter and a Christmas version. Pierre is talking to the press again about his Red Bull demotion. It seems like he's looking to both clear his name and the air with Red Bull, but he has given multiple quotes recently. Red Bull's Engineering Academy applications for summer 2024 are open. If you are an engineer or recently graduated, you should definitely apply. It's like an opportunity to work in the F1 space. Their applications close on November 27th. Couple sponsorship news. Alpine and EcoWalk seem to have parted ways. They did sign a sponsorship deal at the beginning of the year, but their logo hasn't been seen on the car since the Italian GP. AlphaTauri has a new alcohol sponsor, vodka in particular. It's Neft. And Udemy has joined McLaren as a sponsor in a multi-year contract. No, I'm not done. There's still more I have here. Mercedes and IWC had an event Tuesday night to launch both new watches and the new Mercedes AMG car. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, an ad was released for the new AMG car that includes George, Louis, Toto, and Susie. It's really cool. They put a car in the air. It makes me love marketing again. It's like one of those ads where I'm like, I love what I do for my job. It's like people who do what I do get to do things like this. Also, in Lewis Hamilton news, you can now play as Lewis Hamilton and Roscoe Hamilton in Fortnite. His character has a normal character, but then also a suited up version of his character that looks like a purple and yellow Black Panther, which I am sure is intentional. Knowing Lewis Hamilton, it is awesome. He is part of their Icons line in the game, which is very fitting. You can also play in a Lewis Hamilton-inspired car in Rocket League as of this week. The car is similarly Lewis's purple and yellow color scheme. All right, don't get me started on what Vegas is planning to do with the Sphere, because I could talk about it forever, and what we've already seen is so cool, and it's only Wednesday evening. But my favorite part that I have to point out is that they've announced there's going to be a recovery brunch Sunday morning, where they're going to put the race on replay and serve brunch. Just a genius idea. Lewis Hamilton's Plus 44 has a pop-up shop in Vegas all weekend, as well as in Long Beach, California. Also, his brand Almave has a bar event, I believe, Wednesday night. So if you're hearing this, it's already happened, but it's cool, and I'm sad I'm not in Vegas. All of this is just making me sad that we didn't go to Vegas. There's also, but the really trippy flower from this line has a giant statue in one of the hotels. It's just, it all looks so cool. All right, and lastly, Logan and Alex visited the Las Vegas Golden Knights this week. And they got some sparkly Golden Knights jerseys. But so far there hasn't been any content of them actually on the ice, which is disappointing. I would like to see them skate around and try to score some goals. That is the grid walk for November 16th, 2023 completed. How's my Sector 10 today, Nicole?
Faster than all of the news is dropping this week, which is the fastest I've ever seen news drop ever.
I think it's physically impossible for me to be faster than that.
Yeah, really.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. All right, Red Bull went hover speed racing in the desert. It also coincided with a ton of desert and Grand Canyon themed press that teams did before this, both Williams taking a helicopter and Haas visiting the Grand Canyon. Mercedes announced this week that WhatsApp is a new sponsor for the team. Also, if you're looking for that Lewis Hamilton car Funko Pop that went around social media, it's officially on sale on the Mercedes merch store. I am sorry to your wallet. Going into the final race of this season, Ferrari is now only 4 points behind Mercedes for P2 in the Constructors. Now, P2 gets positive vibes and an additional 10 million in winnings. P3 gets more wind tunnel time. Which one do you want? In case you missed it, Lando was sent to the hospital after his crash for, quote, precautionary measures. He seems okay, but the impact he had definitely was hard. Aston Martin announced they sold a stake in their team to a private equity firm. That this sale values their team at an estimated £1 billion, which, by the way, is $1.2 billion US. Reminder, Alpine's recent equity sale put the value at about $100 million US. So it's not surprising that Aston Martin is above the Alpine team, but it's still crazy to see that the team is worth over $1 billion. We really didn't get time in this episode this week to talk about two amazing comeback drives from two of our favorite drivers. Yes, I'm including Nicole in liking Lance Stroll just because she loves me. So Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll ended up P4 and P5 from P16 and P19 respectively, both huge comeback drives that are definitely worth celebrating and mentioning and just highlighting and being like, yay, fun. Williams announced its 2024 F1 Academy driver. She has made a name for herself at the age of 17, racing in Extreme E and Rally, and she became the youngest American Rally Association champion in history as she won the open two-wheel drive class this past year. Valtteri Bottas dropped a 2024 calendar this weekend. Every month has a different photo of his butt. Nicole purchased it. Whether or not you have an interest in this or buying this, please go look at the marketing for it. They put out studios as if they were in an art gallery revealing paintings, and it was incredible marketing. I'm obsessed. AlphaTauri still hasn't announced its new branding for 2024. I really thought it was going to be this weekend. Did they just all think that we forgot that two people are we're supposed to be buying title sponsorships. Like, are we ever going to get the news? Are they just going to be AlphaTauri next year? These are the questions I'm asking myself at this point in the season. And with the final race of the season comes the final chance for F1 teams to fulfill their rookie driver regulation requirement. As a reminder, both cars need to be replaced by a rookie at least once during an FP1 every season. If you are running a rookie driver, that doesn't count for you. So here are the 10 drivers that will be required to give up their cars in FP1 in Abu Dhabi because they haven't yet. Both Red Bull cars, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, Zhou Guanyu, Alex Albon, and Nico Hülkenberg, which means FP1 will be 50% Grand Prix drivers and 50% rookies. That is it for November 20th. Oh, that is the right day. That is the grid walk for November 20th, 2023 completed. I was thrown off because it's, this is coming out on a Monday, not a Thursday. How was my sector time today, Nicole, excusing that final blunder?
Faster than FP1 ended, which that blunder was appropriate for FP1.
Welcome back to Yellow Sector Notes. Not the fastest walk around F1, but we will complete a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. So some general news to start out. This is from Pirelli. There'll be no new 2024 tire compounds after none of the tested adjustments they've done throughout the season showed any improvement in tire performance. Red Bull won the Pit Stop Constructors Championship for the 6th consecutive season. There's so much that happened with Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes since last time we talked, but there's only one important thing that I want to have as my Yellow Sector notes. Did you see that my favorite NFL analyst, Mina Kimes, was at the Las Vegas GP with Mercedes?
Incredible.
Yeah, panic. It felt like my worlds were colliding. She hosted a panel that included Toto Wolff, was there as a Mercedes guest. I felt so much FOMO through Las Vegas GP week, but at that moment I was like, I can't believe I wasn't in that room. Okay, I'll stop fangirling now. Carlos Sainz's performance coach is leaving to go work with Max Verstappen and Red Bull next season. Monster Energy has announced that they are now a McLaren sponsor, so they are leaving Mercedes, but apparently they're still going to be working with Lewis Hamilton and they're not leaving Lewis as a sponsor. Aston Martin has announced their F1 Academy driver for 2024, Swiss racing driver Tina Haasman. Jessica Hawkins also expands her role within the team to include head of racing for F1 Academy, seeming to show that Aston Martin is looking to invest more in and show their F1 Academy drivers more support. Honestly, I was really excited when I saw they were actually going to have a role for head of racing for F1 Academy. Mick was announced as the driver for Alpine's World Endurance Championship program next year. He will also retain his role as a Mercedes reserve, but excited to see Mick back in a racing car. The new Williams F1 Chief Technical Officer, Pat Fry, who has left Alpine, and he's actually started work with Williams in the last month, told Autosport the following thing. I guess the thing that excites me the most about this opportunity is that the board is fully on board with what it's going to take to move this place forward. They're willing to invest in what it takes and support us in building a team. And honestly, with all that we've heard about the investment firm that owns Williams, it's good to hear that behind the scenes they seem to really be investing in the team still. So that is exciting. Also, what's that say about Alpine? But moving on. AlphaTauri's new name and branding has been rumored for months now. It's been reported that the potential naming sponsorships with either Hugo Boss or Adidas have both fallen through, and there'll be some Red Bull themed naming. As we discussed earlier in the show, Alpha's biggest news is really that they're no longer Alpha and they are now Sauber. And going forward, we'll probably talk about them as Sauber when we're talking about next year. And anything about this year, we'll probably still refer to them as Alfa Romeo. It will be inconsistent, please bear with us. But just know that if we're saying Alfa Romeo and if we're saying Sauber, we mean the same thing. Last, but definitely not least, CBS is in the early stages of developing a single-camera workplace scripted comedy based on Gunther Steiner. Steiner himself would serve as a non-writing executive producer on the product. That is the grid walk for November 30th, 2023 completed. How's my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than Ferrari told Charles that he can't do donuts.
Yellow sector notes, not the fastest walk around F1, but we will do a full lap around the paddock, hitting every F1 garage. So we're going to start out today with the unfortunate news that the FIA have launched an investigation into just misogynistic opinions about Susie Wolff. So essentially, a publication put out an opinion piece about Susie Wolff that was rooted in so much deep sexism. And then the FIA said, you know what we could do with our time? Let's just waste time investigating unfounded opinion claims from someone who all their publication seems to do online is put out sexist, misogynistic, and racist statements. We didn't do a segment on this today because there was really nothing else to say besides this is all misogyny. Of course, we don't agree with it. And the fact that we have to waste energy even telling you all that we don't agree with it tells you enough about the F1 space at large. I think the quotes that Susie and Mercedes have put out about this, it's Tuesday, December 5th today, are strong. And I appreciate that they're strong and they're calling a spade a spade. They're not beating around the bush saying like, oh, we will do due process. Like, no, Susie Wolff specifically said this is rooted in sexism and misogyny and it's not okay because it's not okay. When this is all resolved, if it's a big enough deal, we'll do a segment discussing it then, but we will probably just say the same thing, which is this shouldn't have happened. This is an absolute waste of time. The only reason this is happening is because we still have a large amount of leadership, particularly, well, I mean, in all of F1, but in this investigation was launched by the FIA that are very sexist. So the fact that there are conflicts of interest all through the FIA don't matter. Most of the FIA used to work at Ferrari, but we don't hear people screaming about that. But no, a woman gets a job, and how dare she also have a husband is the general gist of this. So yeah, I'm pissed, but there's not really a lot to say about it other than why are we still here? It is 2024, and this is still happening.
Yeah, you summed it up beautifully. And the only thing I would like to add is any sort of legitimacy of like putting an investigation together and looking into these things just belittles any of the work and ethic of Susie Wolff. And it's just a shame. It's a bigger disappointment how it's not a surprise that this is something. And that's it. So it's gross. Don't think it's right, but that's just, we want to make sure that was our stance was clear on that.
Yeah. Well, moving on to the rest of the yellow sector notes. Red Bull and AlphaTauri drivers attended Honda Thanks Day this past week. George officially joins Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Checo Perez, and Valtteri Bottas as the drivers with Funko Pops. His hair does look incredible in his Funko Pop. I have to give it to the Funko Pop crew. Nice job. Charles Leclerc played piano virtually in an ad for Facebook's VR headset. McLaren announced a new hire, Stephanie Carlin, as their F1 Business Operations Director. She's going to start January of 2024. She is joining from the Roden Carlin team, where she was the team principal of their F3 and F1 Academy teams, as well as the team principal of the Team X44 in Extreme E. So she seems to have a wealth of experience, and she's getting a really big director role in the McLaren team. Pierre announced this week that he's a new Make-A-Wish ambassador. Alex Albon has continued his string of interviews where he's really opening up about his time at Red Bull. Valtteri Bottas announced that his nude calendar raised over $150,000 for the Men's Health Charity in November. Nicole contributed to that, so if you bought a calendar, you really helped him raise an incredible sum for charity this month. Yes, the nude Bottas calendar! And lastly, Mick Schumacher confirmed in an interview with F1 that the timeline we all predicted last year was correct. Haas did not tell him he was going to be losing his seat right until the final race of last year, leaving him no time to attempt to negotiate a seat with a different team. And that is a grid walk for December 7th, 2023 completed. How was my sector time today, Nicole?
Faster than the F1 news cycle picked up.